Hey everybody, and welcome back to Sewing Report Live. I am Jen. We are back online after Hurricane Milton disrupted this channel and the main Sewing Report channel, and I want to share a little bit about the personal experience and what's going on the west coast of Florida, because it's been a really crazy week. I'll just say that. So I hope everyone's doing well wherever you are. Sorry for the late start. I'm not sure. I have two of these microphones, and one of them seems to have conked out. So I don't know what's going on. I'll have to troubleshoot a little bit more after the show. Luckily, I do have two of these, so I did have a backup microphone, and I was running a little bit late. So yeah, it's been a bit of a cluster here. I'm just gonna go ahead and share that. It's been just the most insane week probably ever. And it's not even stopping, so it's been a little bit wild around here. I do have some good news, and that is that the sponsor of the Sewing Report Live show is back, the Etsy shop. We are back open now because we did get mail yesterday, so we are up and running again. I got mail yesterday. Now, it is a holiday on Monday, so if you place an order now, it will go out on Tuesday, because I didn't even realize Monday was a holiday. So yes, we are back open. I am gonna be listing hopefully some more fabric this week. So we have some new stuff in the shop. I also have a bunch of bundles and various fabrics on sale as well. There is free shipping on $35 or more, and 10% off of orders of $60 or more, plus you will get free shipping. So lots of stuff still in stock. And yeah, I had to shut down the shop for a week because we just didn't have mail last week, so I couldn't get orders out. And the other thing is that I was afraid that even if I could, I got an order on Saturday that would have shipped out on Monday, but I didn't want the package to get lost in the mail either, because again, things have been kind of nuts and service has been majorly disrupted in the whole area. So I think some areas here still have mail, and others I think are going to be out for a while, depending on the location and how accessible it is for the mail carriers. It's just been very unpredictable and pretty just this is just not normal. So this is pretty insane. All right, so yes, sewingreport.etsy.com. You can shop here now. Yes, we had to close for a week because I couldn't get orders out. And even if I could, earlier in the week, I was really I would have had a lot of anxiety over the packages not making it to their destination just due to things happening along the way or whatnot. So I was like, I don't know what to do. So I decided to put the shop in vacation mode for the week. It is now, I was able to open it up last night, so it is back open for your sewing and quilting needs. Yeah, it's been, guys, I have so much to tell you. I have so much to tell you. It's just, you won't even believe what's happening here. It's just been pretty, just crazy. So, welcome. We do this every Sunday. Normally we do talk about normally this channel is about what's going on in the world of sewing and crafts, but this week has been just, wild. So I wanted to share some of that, some of my firsthand experiences of going through a hurricane in Florida, because it is a very different kind of experience if you've never done this before. Welcome. Hello, Jamie. Thank you for checking in. I got your Instagram message as well, so I really appreciated that. Yes, we're physically fine. Yeah, I'm pretty frazzled though, I'm not gonna lie. It's been, even though we're okay and the house is okay, it was just extremely stressful in ways that I didn't even realize it was gonna be. All right, we've got AS in the house. Thank you, Jen. All right, hi Jen, made it through the storm. All right, good. My office just got power back today. And that's what people were not expecting here is, I think for many people, they haven't gone through a major hurricane here before, because I think I've heard stories about Hurricane Andrew in the 90s that people didn't have power for months. The last few hurricanes we've had, people didn't lose power for long periods of time. Even though Hurricane Milton did not hit our area as hard as it was expected to be worse. And at the last minute, this storm ended up weakening really quickly upon landfall. And that was a really good thing. It still caused a lot of damage though. And even today, it's been about, let's see, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's been about 4 days since Milton made landfall. And a lot of people still do not have power in our state. It's been, like, I think at one point there were 3 million people without power. So I'm going to talk about all of that. If you have any questions about Florida or hurricanes or what this whole thing was like, feel free to ask. Don't be shy. I'll be very, very upfront with you about my honest opinions, because I do have a lot of, after going through this, I do have a lot of thoughts and opinions on this whole thing. All right, Lisa, thank you. Hello, thank God all is okay. Yeah, we're fine. And I just uploaded a video earlier today. That was a little bit of a lighter one showing the rabbit who slept through. Now there were, like, the winds were it was fairly loud. Winds were howling. One of the big noises you hear is just rattling of your storm shutters. Our house did come with metal storm shutters, and those were just rattling constantly. I thought the rabbit, J-Hop, I thought she was going to be way freaked out, and she really didn't care, which I was really shocked about. So I did upload a video of her just sleeping her way through a hurricane. So that was a little bit of a little bit of brevity to the situation, but things have just been, like, I'm seeing things. I haven't gone outside a whole lot, but I'm seeing things that are just unreal happening in this area. It's been super crazy. Now, we had another hurricane about 2 weeks ago, Helene, and even though Helene didn't make direct landfall to this area, not a direct hit, the storm surge from Helene was horrible, and it was actually in many areas worse than Milton that just hit us more directly. So that was a little bit surprising, because I remember being home for Helene, and it was pretty stormy out, but here it wasn't that bad. I don't live, and I just want to preface this by saying I don't live in a flood or an evacuation zone. I'm on a fairly high elevation, which turned out to be really, really fortunate, because when my husband and I were looking at this house, we didn't really consider the elevation level that much. But my husband was like, yeah, I remember the realtor saying, yeah, this neighborhood doesn't flood as much. So we're like, cool. And it really doesn't. Since we've been here about 5 years, and we've never had any sort of flooding or anything like that. We're up pretty high, and even though we're like within a fairly close driving distance to the water, but not super close. But other areas, like the next neighborhood over, lost homes from, 3 feet of water. So we have gotten really none of that. It's been super, I just have so many different things floating around in my head right now, from like insurance to just thoughts on like home construction. It's just like a lot of, and I will say this, a lot of our immediate neighbors have a lot of damage. So there's been there's been a lot of like very common stuff. So we'll go over that. I know I've been kind of keeping you guys posted on what's going on here, but yes, the Etsy shop is open now, so you can shop there. SewingReport.etsy.com, the sponsor of Sewing Report Live. All right, let's check out some of your comments. Hello, thank you, Rebecca. Yes, we are okay. We're really tired. Both my husband and I we're pretty tired. It's just been, this whole thing has been fairly very high stress. Just dealing with it, like wondering if you're like, and we really did think about like, we really calculated the risks and benefits of evacuation. Should we do that? Are we going to lose our house? We were wondering, like, is our roof going to get blown off during this thing? And that actually happened to one of my neighbors. So I've got some stories, guys. So if you want to know what's going down in the disaster zone, I will say, shit's hitting the fan here. Like, even though it wasn't as bad as it was expected to be, it was still pretty bad for a lot of people. And the immediate after effects of post-hurricane Tampa it's like, you can definitely see what would happen in an apocalypse just on a small level. It's pretty mind-blowing. So welcome everyone to the show. This is not what we normally talk about, but because this was such a big thing, I thought I would, share my experience and all of that jazz. All right. Wow. Helene dropped a tree onto the roof of my parents' bedroom. That's crazy. I hope they're okay. Thankfully, Milton missed them. Are they in Florida? I know Helene had really wide-ranging impacts in Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, and North Carolina, even I think South Carolina. And I feel so horrible for the people of North Carolina because, like, it's Western North Carolina. They just didn't. I'm sure they weren't thinking, hey, we're going to have our entire towns washed away by Hurricane Helene that's hitting the panhandle of Florida. We'll talk about insurance. We'll talk about everything. If you have any questions, though, or if you have questions about living in Florida, or if you're like maybe considering retiring here or purchasing a home here, I do have some opinions, and you're welcome to ask questions to someone who's lived here for quite a while. I did used to do some work for a real estate agent here, so that I might also be able to help you out there in terms of like the risks of living here, the benefits, things to think about, insurance, what type of homes. Meteorologists were forecasting this to possibly be a catastrophic, 1,000-year event. And the worst case scenario, all of Tampa and all of St. Petersburg could have been wiped out. And it's still pretty bad though. It's not, again, it didn't get as bad as it could have been, but it's still even though it wasn't as bad, guys, it's still pretty bad here in many ways. Even outside of just the damage. Man, it's been quite a week here. Oh my gosh, Hurricane Andrew was a week before my wedding. It was terrible. Yeah, and I remember I had some friends who lived in South Florida and had gone through Hurricane Andrew, and they were telling me stories about what happened to their house and how crazy it was and all this stuff. And a lot of people have questions. I've seen a lot of folks, rightfully asking, why do people keep building homes on the beach? And that's something, I've been thinking, why, if it's such a high risk, why, how can these homes, why do they keep rebuilding in those same areas that keep getting wiped out? And, I do hope that this gets people thinking, what makes sense? Are you going to have people keep rebuilding homes on the beach and then they're going to keep getting wiped out? Maybe, and that's one reason why I am glad we don't live on the water. Insurance would be, we wouldn't be able to afford to live here at this point, which is fine. Because the insurance, and you know what? I think the insurance premiums for waterfront homes should be really freaking high because the risk is infinitely, and that's the thing I think people have a misconception about if you don't actually live here. My husband was saying, he grew up in Ohio, and he was like, look, when I was a kid, I always was like, why would anyone want to move to Florida? It gets wiped out every year. But that's not true, and it's specific areas. It's not the entire state. And when you live here, you kind of know which areas to avoid, because it's always like this, like all of the areas you see with the dramatic pictures on the news of the intense flooding and all the beach houses getting wiped away. It's typically the same areas over and over. It's not the majority of the land here. It's a small portion, and everybody knows where those areas are. So I do think when you live near the water, especially in Florida or like on the Gulf Coast, even on some parts of the Atlantic where hurricanes are a threat, it's really something you need to consider. You really need to take some serious time to think, is this something I can deal with? Am I okay with the possibility of having my entire house get destroyed in a hurricane or something else? And think, is this something I'm comfortable with? Because a lot of people, when you really think about it, probably are not, myself included, which is why we don't live in a flood zone. And our house generally made it out okay. So yeah, we'll get into that. Let's see some more comments here. All right. Okay. Yes. Okay. We're going to talk about the gas AS, because that is, that's been the gas situation. Okay. So yeah, we'll talk about that, because, things are really devolving quite quickly here in the post-hurricane frenzy. It's starting to get kind of ugly in some circumstances, and people are starting to really lose their shit. Like, I'm just here, like, I am in a few local Facebook groups and my HOA Facebook group, and it's just getting like post-apocalyptic, but not even on a big level, on a small level, and people still are like totally losing it by just not having power for a couple days. Like, even though their homes, again, worst case scenario, you lose your entire home, you're in physical danger. For a lot of these people, their homes are okay, but they're without power, and gas has been hard to come by. And even those two factors are just unraveling, like the polite society, and that's been really kind of scary to see. It's been a little bit frightening. So, like, being 100% here, it's a little bit terrifying to see. Just, when you rip away like normalcy, how quickly things really spiral out, and you can see people start to get kind of desperate. Nobody has patience. People are like getting really, again, it's, this is kind of what you can see, like, on a tiny micro level of what would happen if things devolved into utter chaos. And that's been, I'm like, whoa. Rebecca says, they're okay. Oh, that's good. It was a tornado that spun from the hurricane. Yeah, there have been a lot of tornadoes after these things, which is kind of interesting. They're on the South Carolina, Georgia border. Okay, yeah, Augusta. Yeah, they were hit pretty hard. And that's the fun, like, with my area, the actual hurricane effects, like, it was like a couple 100 miles off the shore, I think. Like, it wasn't even really close to us. But the storm surge had a devastating impact on low-lying areas and coastal areas. But like my area, it just felt like a heavy rainstorm, and we really didn't even, if you didn't know it was a hurricane, you wouldn't really think anything was going on. All right, I've heard how owner's insurance is super duper expensive in Florida, Lisa. Yes, and it's only going to get worse. So when I first moved to Florida, it was the mid-2000s, and it was like kind of right on the verge of the housing bust, and everything was ridiculously cheap. Like, living in Florida was a bargain. The cost of living was extremely, extremely reasonable, very low. My first apartment, like, I remember us getting apartments here for like $600. My first house here was $47,000. We did have that one. We did have the state-run insurance, but our property taxes were like $500. It was just Florida used to be a lot more affordable to live here than it is now. So, if you are considering moving to Florida now, it's going to be a lot more. Maybe after this, maybe people are going to leave. But the problem you have if you're coming here, even if the home prices drop, your insurance costs are going to be astronomical. And also our auto insurance premiums are ridiculously high too, because we have a lot of fraud. We have a lot of insurance fraud. And I do want to point out that the homeowners insurance crisis in Florida is not so. The hurricanes are a part of it, but there's a lot of other things going on that contributed to homeowners insurance here being super crazy. So it's actually not like I've seen a lot of journalists and media outlets falsely reporting that Florida insurance premiums are due to hurricanes. That's actually really not true. That's actually like legitimately not true. So we'll talk about that. All right, hello Ruth. Thank you. Yes, we are okay. Yes. Yeah, it's true. A lot of companies will not come to Florida, or they're leaving Florida. But that's the thing. It's not, the hurricanes are a part of the equation, but a lot bigger part of the equation is actually from insurance fraud and litigation. So those are the two things. Roofs are a major factor with your insurance premium, or even whether or not you're able to get a policy. And a lot of this has to do with actually with basically roof scams. I'm not joking. Roof scams and the high amount of litigation between roofing companies and Florida insurance carriers. So the storms are part of it, but the big reasons that a lot of insurers left was actually because so Florida used to have all of these wacky loopholes in the laws that allowed roof companies and lawyers to basically sue these insurance companies, into oblivion. Now, since then, those loopholes, most of those loopholes have been closed, but that only happened like a couple years ago. So the insurance industry has not stabilized here because of that. So what would happen in this, and I've seen this, and I actually have, some of my neighbors did this, roofing companies would go around to houses and say, hey, we can get you a free, it was like door-to-door soliciting. And they would be like, hey, we can, let us inspect your roof. We may be able to get you a free roof. So they would find some they would make some bogus claims that regular wear and tear on the roof was storm damage. And then they would try to get the homeowner's insurance company to pay for a new roof when the damage was not, there was no storm damage. It was literally a scam. And Florida's previous laws allowed something called assignment of benefits. So you as a homeowner could have a roofing company sue your insurance company on your behalf. So a lot of these sketchy roof companies did that. And we also had another wacky thing where if the say the roof company tried to get the insurance company to pay for a new roof, and the insurance company was like, we'll give you, $25,000. And the roofing company wanted to try to get $35,000 for the roof replacement. The roof company would take the insurance company to court. And if the roof company lost, if the insurance company lost, the insurance company actually had to pay the legal fees and all of the court costs for the roofing company. So this became like a kind of a well-known scam in the state. And So all of these, but what ended up happening is all of this roof fraud basically either made the insurance companies leave the state entirely, or they would just jack up the premiums for everyone. So the term free roof was a lie because it's not free. You're just making everyone pay for it. And the other thing that happened too is that, say that roof that the roof company was trying to get you a new roof, say the roof was 15 years old. Now, do you think it's fair for the insurance company to have to buy a brand new roof to replace a 15-year-old roof? Maybe they should prorate it. Say, hey, we'll give you, your roof might have 5 years of life left. We'll cover the cost. We'll cover 25% of the cost of a new roof. But the insurance company was required to basically replace that old roof that probably needed to be replaced soon anyways with a brand new roof. So kind of a comparison would be like if you had a 1997 Toyota Camry and you totaled it in an accident and your auto insurance carrier was required to buy you a 2024 Toyota Camry, that's basically what was happening between these roofing companies and the insurance companies. So it was a really big mess, and a lot of insurers left. And it sucks because even though some homeowners got a quote-unquote free roof, they ended up kind of screwing everybody over. And now we're all paying for it. So now I can say for firsthand, my homeowner's insurance premium is 3 times what it was 5 years ago. When we first moved into our house, the homeowner's insurance was about $600 for the year. My house is less than $200,000. It's about 1,600 square feet. It's a fairly newer build. It's nothing crazy. It's fairly modest. So our homeowner's insurance has gone from about $600 in 2019 to about $1,700 in 2024. So yeah, it's about 3 times what it was. The flood insurance, now we are not required to have flood insurance in my particular area. We have it anyways. That cost has gone from about $400 in 2019 to about $770 in 2024 because I just paid the premium a couple weeks ago. So there are a lot of factors that have gone into why our insurance premiums are so ridiculous. And some of it does have to do with storms and hurricanes and weather events, but a lot of it, the vast majority of it, is from litigation. It's from litigation costs. So there was a stat. Let me look this up because let's see, Florida. I found a good article on this the other day. Florida insurance crisis. So Florida has I think 7 or 8% of all of the claims nationwide, but 80% of the litigation costs, which is nuts for the whole entire country. So there's a lot of crazy. So yeah, so there was a lot of roof fraud. There's a ton of insurance fraud here, and there's a lot of people that there's a lot of uninsured drivers, so that drives up the cost of our auto insurance. So yes, if you are thinking about moving here or even getting a second home here or something, it's going to be really expensive, especially if you are living close to the water or on the water. It's not going to be cheap at all. All right, so let me see if I can find this article. Yeah, it's but yeah, the last 5 or 6 years here have been pretty nuts. I'm trying to find this article for you. But yeah, if you have any questions about this, I did produce a few. So I produced a couple videos with my ex-realtor client about insurance. So I did get a lot of knowledge out of that just from the insurance agent that we interviewed. We also interviewed a former state senator who is kind of the expert with Florida's insurance crisis. But it's very real. The premiums here are, especially after Helene and Milton, they're going to be crazy. The insurance costs here are going to be crazy. We do have a state-run insurance carrier for last resort. So for homeowners that can't get regular insurance to cover it, you can get Citizens. So Citizens is like the state program. But Citizens actually, I don't know what they're going to do. They don't really have enough money to cover all of these claims that are going to come out of Helene and Milton. It's going to be nuts. All right, let's read some of your comments, and then I've got an article to show you about the insurance. So the insurance industry, these two storms are going to be a huge test of, like, how solvent all of the insurance carriers are and how solvent Citizens is, because I really have no idea. Yeah, it's crazy. All right, yeah, Lisa, I've heard you. I know you guys have the fires, so you have your own stuff to deal with. Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, insurance, and that's the thing. If you have a mortgage, insurance is like you're required to have homeowners insurance. So I know some people here, if a lot of them, they're like older folks or retired folks who have a paid off home, they self-insure or they don't have insurance. And quite frankly, a lot of people were getting to the point where they can't afford the insurance premiums, so they end up dropping them. All right, yeah, Jamie, roofing companies do that here in Texas too. It's basically like the same thing as those people at the mall that tell you they can get your windshield replaced if you've got a chip or a crack in it. And that's the thing, it's not free, guys. It is not free. They're gonna go after your insurance company, and then that's going to affect your like track record with your insurance company. Because if you put in a claim, you're gonna be considered like a higher risk customer for sure. Oh boy, my home insurance doubled from the last roll. I know, it's sad. Plus, you have to consider the cost of building materials and like actually fixing or replacing things has gone up a lot too. So that's going to factor into your insurance premiums because the cost of fixing or doing any sort of repairs has gotten much higher just thanks to, inflation and all of these increased costs. All right, hello Donna, thank you. Yes, we're totally fine here. We are doing okay, and you may have noticed we do have power here. We are one of very few neighborhoods to actually have power. A lot of people, even today, still do not have electricity, and people, you're really starting to see things cracking. Like this, everyone's kind of. A lot of people are really starting to lose it. I can already see it just with the online activity and everything is just, not fun. Yeah, and that's my question, Lisa, is if all of these insurance companies are leaving, what options do people have if you can't get your home insured? And the other thing that's happening here is that a lot of insurance carriers will not write a policy or renew homes with older roofs. The same thing goes, like my husband's a plumber and he says a lot of people are having trouble if they've got old or outdated fixtures like plumbing fixtures, electrical, and a lot of insurers are requiring homeowners to update a lot of systems, including the roof, if they want to stay on their policy. Otherwise, they're going to get dropped. You're also going to get much lower premiums if you're in a new home with all new stuff because you're a lower risk and you're out of a flood zone. So my advice, if you're thinking about moving to Florida, don't live in a flood zone. Like, again, if you have serious money, like FU money, you can afford to self-insure, or you can afford to build some sort of like military grade, hurricane proof, impenetrable home, you're gonna be okay. But if you're like a normal person who doesn't have endless amounts of money and you want to move here, my best suggestion is to check the elevation of the place you're thinking of buying. It should be well above, like I'm about 30 feet above sea level, and we have never, knock on wood, we have not experienced flooding. 2, do not buy an older home unless you like, if you are not rich, you're like a middle class person, you're gonna want to move into a newer build construction, block construction, no older wood homes. And your home should have a newer roof. Out of a flood zone, out of an evacuation zone, higher elevation, you are probably going to be okay. Your premiums are not going to be, like, the people with the lower premiums are people who did that. So if you are in a newer home, newish roof, updated HVAC, plumbing, like, if your home was built in the last 5 years and it's block construction, you're at a high elevation and you're not in a flood zone, you're probably going to be fine. So that's the other thing I want to point out, is that it's not like every home in Florida is at high risk for a hurricane to wipe you out. The highest risk areas are obviously older homes on or near the water or at a lower elevation. So if that is not your situation, you probably have a lot less to worry about. Now, there's still a threat, and that is, you're going to have some level of risk living in Florida because there are hurricanes. But if you are in a newer home, again, especially if you're inland, again, you could get into the territory where there's tornadoes. So you should check the area. Do they have a history of tornadoes? Also, does this area have a history with sinkholes? Sinkholes, there was one, I think, in Riverview. I haven't heard of, a ton of them lately, but as a news producer, I do remember covering a fair amount of sinkholes in various places. Those are typically further inland. Like, I remember Pasco County had a bunch of sinkholes. There was also, a huge sinkhole in Seffner that, killed a man. Literally, this huge sinkhole opened up, and this guy in his bed just got buried. He basically got buried alive in a sinkhole, and it was just, that was just insane. So there are some areas that are prone to flooding, sinkholes, tornado alley. You want to really do your homework on where you're living in Florida if this is a state you're considering moving to. But yeah, there is some level of risk. And to be fair, pretty much everywhere you live has some sort of risk for natural catastrophes or weather events. It's kind of a pick your poison thing. Like, California's got the wildfires. I'm from Buffalo, tons of snow. There's always going to be something. There's always going to be something. All right, we got Donna here. All right, I live in the New York City, metro area, and I pay almost $700 a month for $700 a month for auto insurance. Our rates went up almost $200 a few months ago. We don't have any accidents. Oh my gosh. $700 a month? And I bet you guys drive, normal cars. You probably don't have, something crazy. You're probably not driving... I'm guessing this is probably for, kind of standard cars. You're not driving, a G-Wagon or something, outlandish. That's crazy. Yeah, I'm so sick that we have to keep paying and paying. My husband and I make decent salaries, and we're having a hard time here. That's insane. Our homeowners is $400 a month now. We have a single family home. And it's at what point, you're going to price out long-time residents, especially a lot of people in Florida are retired people on a fixed income. A lot of these folks cannot afford to pay 3 times what they were for insurance. It's just not feasible. I don't know what we're going to do. And that is a major issue with living here. So I do want to be just transparent that that's something you really need to consider if you are thinking about moving here. There are benefits, but there are some downsides too. Yeah, sinkholes are pretty, that sinkhole, you need to look up sinkholes, Seffner sinkhole. It's just super crazy. Okay, yeah, you have a 2-year-old Ford. Yeah, so nothing, you're not driving around in some, $300,000 car or something. Yeah. We have a state fund, but it's busting at the seams. I've been with the same company for years and years. Fingers crossed. My agent said we don't have to worry. Yeah, I know, right? Famous last words. Yeah, exactly. And one of my neighbors, she said she got a wind mitigation inspection done on her roof to try to lower her premiums. And she did. And right after that, they dropped her, which is crazy. So she was, being what she thought was a good homeowner, and they ended up dumping her. All right, my hubby has a Ford F-150 that is 4 years old. You know, and I will say this, Donna, when I was talking to an insurance agent a while ago, and I was asking her auto insurance, I said, what's the best kind of car that would be best, you know, that would have the lowest premiums? And she told me this. She said, the most common car you see on the road, like easy to fix, you know, parts are not scarce. She said the very popular, very common cars, she said those would be the least expensive to insure. So I thought that was pretty interesting advice. All right, so here is an article from Bankrate. Here, and I'll bring this up. And this sort of goes into why Florida's insurance market is so, like, messed up. Here, and I'll put this in the chat if you want to check this out for yourself. It might be good if you're, you know, researching Florida. Check out this article because this does do a pretty good job of summing up what's going on here. Okay, so Florida's property insurance market is in crisis as insurers grapple with out-of-control litigation costs and billions in losses from recent natural disasters. Okay, where is it? Okay, so yeah, here's the part with the insurance fraud. So this really explains the specifics about all of the sketchy roof companies. So Florida only accounts for 9% of the country's home insurance claims. It is home to 79% of the country's home insurance lawsuits. So most of this money is going straight to lawyers. Many of these lawsuits are fraudulent. Yep, see here. Roofers canvass neighborhoods, offer inspections to unsuspecting homeowners, and they inevitably find damage on the roof and often promise a free roof to the homeowner, claiming they can have the home insurance deductible waived. Homeowners are pressured to sign an assignment of benefits form giving contractors the right to file an insurance claim on their behalf. A claims adjuster from the insurance company inspects the alleged damage. The adjuster either finds no damage or far more minimal damage than the contractor found, and the claim payout is less than what the contractor demanded. The contractor brings legal action against the insurance company, demanding a claim payout for the contractor's original quote. Remember, the homeowner signed the benefits of the policy to the contractor, so the contractor doesn't need the homeowner's permission to do this. The insurance company now has a choice. It can pay the legal costs to fight the lawsuit or pay the costs to settle out of court. Either way, the insurance company loses money due to the legal action. Yeah, these schemes they were happening. They were extremely prevalent for several years. Yeah. Florida property insurers are projected to post a cumulative underwriting loss of $1.7 billion for 2021 due to these runway litigation costs. Yes. On top of that, Florida also had a one-way attorney fee system. This meant that when a court ruled in favor of the plaintiff, in this case a home insurance policyholder, or the third-party contractor who filed the claim, the defendant, in this case the insurance company, was responsible for paying the plaintiff's legal attorney fees. So not only were insurers paying for fraudulent lawsuits, but they were also paying for the fraudsters' legal costs. So that's how all of these scammy roof companies got away with doing this. So there was a reform bill passed in December 2022 addressing the two root causes, litigation abuse and assignment of benefits abuse. Eliminating both is necessary to slow the mass volume of lawsuits being filed against Florida insurers. Going forward, assignment of benefits forms are banned for home insurance losses, and Florida will no longer operate one-way attorney fee system. Yeah, so the factors are roof age and storm risk. Instead of leaving altogether, some companies are tightening their underwriting restrictions to lessen the risk of these scams. This may be the reason why several companies have chosen to continue operations in Florida, but have non-renewed tens of thousands of policy. However, companies are now prohibited from denying coverage solely based on roof age if the roof is fewer than 15 years old and has a life expectancy of 5 years at this time the policy is issued. That said, insurers will have to decide if they are comfortable with these restrictions or if they will cease doing business in Florida. And of course, there's storm risk. Risk will always be a consideration for home insurance companies in Florida. The state's shape and geographical location mean that it could get hit from either side by a hurricane. Because the peninsula is so thin, even homes in the interior counties aren't entirely protected. To make matters worse, fraudulent claims may be more common after severe storms, and storms are not uncommon in the state. Yep. See what I'm saying here? Yep. However, although the risk of hurricane damage complicates things, it isn't what's driving the market to the brink of collapse. After all, other risky states don't have this problem. A high likelihood of damage generally means paying a higher premium to offset that risk, but coverage is usually still available. Oklahoma, for example, has historically high average cost of home insurance due to the likelihood of tornado damage, but homeowners in the state don't face the same difficulty finding coverage that Floridians do. So that's kind of what's going on here. But yeah, I would recommend you read this article if you want to see what is going on. There has been some reform, but I can tell you from personal experience, my premiums have definitely not gone down. They have only gone up and up and up over the past few years. All right. Oh, thanks, Lisa. Yeah, my mom actually... so here's the funny thing, crazy thing. Okay, so one of the most frustrating things for me, and I think for a lot of us, is that nobody really knew where exactly Milton was going to make landfall. It was forecast somewhere between like Cedar Key, I think in like, Fort Myers, something like that. And, and that really made a difference in terms of the damage, who was going to be heavily impacted. And at one point, this Milton was on track to go like pretty much right through our neighborhood. But it ended up like, and it ended up going south, and it made landfall on Siesta Key down near Sarasota. My mom was more in the direct path at that point, but she actually had no real damage. I think she had like some downed trees, but that was about it. Her home is fairly new, and she has a better roof than we do. But she was more in the direct path. I will say this, I'm not going to reveal my exact location for privacy reasons, but we were within 50 miles of the center eye of Hurricane Milton. It's a lot closer for comfort than I would have liked to have been. But, we ended up being okay, and it was, we really didn't get any damage. We just had some, like, downed tree branches. Some of our neighbors lost a lot of their roofs. There were some trees down. I've seen, one of our neighbors lost, like, parts of their, like, soffit and, like, the metal, like the metal parts on the side. There were shingles. There were, in my neighborhood, the aftermath, there were trees everywhere, debris all over the place. There were shingles everywhere from roofs. And it's sort of backwards because our HOA requires you to have a shingle roof. You can't get like a metal roof or like a terracotta roof that would probably hold up better in a hurricane. We are required to have our shingle roofs, which I think doesn't make a lot of sense. And the other rule that I think is nonsensical is that if you have a fence, it has to be one of those like vinyl fences. And another thing I noticed is that vinyl fencing makes absolutely no sense in Florida. Those fences did not do well at all in a Category 3 hurricane. There were fence panels and fence posts all over the place. If you drive around or go to different neighborhoods, there's like vinyl fencing freaking all over the place. Like, so I don't know why people in Florida are going with vinyl fencing, because it really does not stand up to any sort of winds at all. And it's just like, we don't have a fence. I'm glad we don't, because it looks terrible. So that was the other thing I noticed, is that I'm like, why do all of these subdivisions have vinyl fencing? That's like the first thing to go. The vinyl fencing was so rickety and like, flimsy that there were pieces flying everywhere. That just doesn't make sense. another thing that I kind of was like, why? Another thing that I was like, why do we do this is, now my neighborhood has underground utilities, and I will say this, we have power, and we only lost power for like an hour. A lot of older neighborhoods here still have above ground utilities, which are a lot more prone to obviously being damaged and causing outages. But one thing that baffled me was how there are so many trees right next to the power lines. And of course, there are all these trees down trees, and that takes out the power line. So we did notice before Milton came through, my husband noticed a bunch of utility workers trimming the trees that were closest to the power lines, like trimming the branches. But like, why are all these trees so close to the power lines? Like, they really need to like not do that, because a lot more people, like a lot fewer people would have lost power had all of these trees, like huge trees, not been like directly up against the power line. So like, if we're trying to do like more, planning with our communities, I think it would make more sense to get these trees away from the power lines, and maybe try to update some of these lines, move them underground, do something, because like, people still, it's been 4 days, and a lot of people in our area still do not have power. They do not have power even now. I don't even know how we have power now, because we were very fortunate. We were very fortunate. I'm going to get some water real quick. Yeah, I'm wondering, like, the HOA probably is in cahoots with the fence builders. Yeah, because I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Oh, plus, we have to use, like, we're required to use, like, certain vendors for things like mailbox replacement. If we wanted to replace the mailbox, we share ours with a neighbor. The mailbox replacement cost is, like, $1,700. It's just, I'm like, really? Yeah, it might be like some sort of collusion situation. Yeah, I don't even know what to say about that. So, yeah, it's been a really stressful week. So I first found out about this whole thing last Saturday. So you do get like a few days heads up. It's not like this comes out of nowhere. You get a few days heads up. But one thing I did notice, like, this is definitely the most serious hurricane we've experienced. And it drove me crazy, because you would watch all of these like weather experts, meteorologists, like amateur weather people online and social media, and they're all saying different things. I'm like, this is like not helpful. So at a certain point, I would say stop watching like the 24/7 severe weather coverage, because you kind of realize nobody really knows what's up. Like, they didn't really know where the storm was. They didn't really have an exact location for where Milton was going to make landfall until like 5 hours ahead, like 5 or 6 hours beforehand. So like, I would say make your plans. Like, if you're thinking like, should I evacuate? What should I do? I think if you're in a high risk area, like if you're like, again, say I lived somewhere on the coast, and I lived, I would probably have evacuated if I lived on the coast. But being in a non-evacuation zone higher up, and you also have to look at what strength is this hurricane going to be when it makes landfall. We were comfortable staying at a Category 3, which it ended up being. And I think at 2 points, Milton was a Category 5. My husband and I thought about it. We looked at elevation maps. We looked at like some NOAA map that showed like what the storm surge hypothetical would be in your area. You could look up your address and do it. And we kind of decided, as long as it wasn't like a strong Category 4 or a Category 5 when it made landfall, we were okay with staying. And we are glad we did. I don't regret the decision to stay. I think that's another misconception people tend to have, is like everybody in the state needs to evacuate. No, not everybody not everybody needs to evacuate. You really need to evaluate your risk level. Also, your situation. We don't have medical needs. We don't have kids. That would have also affected our factors in the decision making. So whether or not you choose to evacuate or what you plan to do during a hurricane, it's going to be different for every person and for every household. They got to decide, you got to decide what's right for you. We weren't even close to being in the evacuation zone, and I would do, quite honestly, I would do a category 3 direct hit here. I wouldn't leave for that. Because being in a block construction home that's newer, in a category 3, your house isn't going to blow away. It's just not. And we thought about it. We're worst case scenario, something happens to the roof. But we felt our risk for personal danger with a category 3, even at a direct hit, was low enough that we were we're just gonna stay here. So, after I posted videos here and on the, after I talked about it last Sunday and I put something on the main channel, I did get some comments that were very fear driven, oh my God, Jen, you just need to get out, be safe than sorry. I will say that I know these people mean well, but I didn't find, guys, you gotta realize you don't, those people need to realize they don't know our situation. And I know these people mean well, and I really appreciate the concern, but comments like that they're not very helpful, because just being if you don't leave, and I've seen comments from people who don't live in Florida saying stuff if you don't leave, you're gonna die, you're an idiot if you're stupid if you stay. Now, I want to ask, one, how is that helpful? Two, there's no reason to scare people that don't need, again, certain people needed to evacuate. If I had a waterfront home that it was built in the 1950s, I'm GTFOing. Let's be real. If I lived in Sarasota and my house was wood frame, had a wood roof, we would definitely not have stayed, for sure. But I think the thing that I was seeing a lot that kind of annoyed me as a Florida resident was all of the armchair experts from behind a keyboard that were you're an idiot, you're an idiot if you don't evacuate, or you're gonna die if you don't evacuate. Okay, that's just not true for most, quite honestly, it's not true for most residents here. Even again, my mom was kind of in the direct path of Hurricane Milton, and she was totally fine. She didn't even lose power. She did lose, I think she lost internet, but she's got Spectrum, and Spectrum is kind of known for being fairly unreliable. But there was no need for my mom to evacuate. There was no need for us to evacuate with the information we had. So I think a lot of people were unnecessarily putting fear and anxiety into people who were directly affected, when they really didn't, they weren't in a position to know whether or not those people should evacuate or not. So I would really, if you don't live here and you've never experienced Florida hurricanes, I would say nicely, politely recommend that you not make those kind of comments online. As someone that was directly impacted, they just stressed me out more. They weren't helpful at all, and I just found a lot of those comments to be kind of ignorant, even though I know people were well-intentioned. But I was I didn't need to be second-guessing myself or, having more anxiety than I already did. So please, I would say, if you're, comments like that on social media or comments online, or if you're in somebody's chat, it's just not, it's not helpful. And you're not in a position to know that person's situation enough to be able to tell them what to do. So, those kind of, that just really that did kind of irritate me. Because you don't need more voices in your head trying to second guess you when you're making a very important decision. And you're also worrying about like your home possibly being destroyed in a hurricane. You're wondering, like, you're trying to prepare for this thing. You're figuring out what to do. And I just found a lot of those comments to be really, like, they were just not helpful. So please stop. Don't do that kind of thing. I just don't think it's necessary. You're not helping them at all. It's not helpful for you to be like, and I saw all these comments like, you know, the people who don't leave are stupid. Like, I can't believe, like, here's the thing. At a certain point, we would have been stuck in gridlock traffic. We wouldn't have been able to find gas. And we wouldn't have been better off evacuating. We really wouldn't have. So, to the people who are, like, making these, like, armchair quarterback type calls, like, I just would say don't do that, because you're not helping those people. I'm not saying you have to be like rah cheerleading, but I just didn't find those types of comments to be, you know, at all, like, I felt like they were hurting more than they were helping the people who live here. Just my honest thoughts here. Let's read some of the comments here. You know, Lisa, we were thinking about this, because my husband is pretty good with, like, construction stuff. I think a metal roof probably wouldn't be bad. Shingles, though, they just, like, some of our neighbors have, like, new roofs, and they have more roof damage than we do. Our roof is, like, over 10 years old, and we didn't have any roof damage, and we have neighbors with brand new roofs that had significant sections ripped off from Hurricane Milton, which is crazy. Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's the thing, Denise. Yeah, like, again, my husband and I are able-bodied. We don't have medical conditions. We don't rely on electricity. Like, we were thinking worst case scenario, we don't have power for a while and things are uncomfortable. We might have some home damage, but I never felt like I was gonna die, or, like, I never really felt like I was in danger of dying or being seriously injured. We also, again, my husband's very observant. We don't have any trees. We really don't have any risk of, like, a huge tree falling on the house or anything like that. So, again, each person has to weigh and evaluate their risk factors and what they're comfortable with. And they're really the only ones that can make that decision. And I was mentioning in my other video, my mom, like chances were either our house or my mom's house was going to be in a better situation. And we're only like 45 minutes away. So, she could have come to our house, or we could have come to her house, and we could have gotten there fairly quickly taking the back roads. We don't need to take the highway. So yeah, like, us, like, leaving the state for this just really, it didn't. Now, if it was a 5, yeah, we would have left. We're not comfortable sticking around for a 5, but that's something that we got to do. Okay, Lisa, good question. One of my questions was going to be, did the media, social or otherwise, blow things up? Pun intended. I think to a certain degree, yes, and I'll explain why. I'm not saying Hurricane Milton was not serious. Hurricane Milton is absolutely a major severe weather event. I worked in mainstream media for 2 decades. One thing you should know is that one of the biggest money makers for the media is severe weather. So you have to keep in mind that every media outlet, and even a lot of these social media influencers that do weather, like the Weather Chasers, I also ended up having to block and mute online a lot of these, like, amateur weather people, because I felt like they were starting to post like very fear-based content that was, 1, not helpful, and 2, just done to, like, sort of like, I felt like a lot of it was just done to, like, kind of like get people like, it was very emotionally fear-based content, that just didn't serve any real purpose, and wasn't helpful. And the other thing that really annoyed me is that I saw a lot of people claiming to be weather experts that gave pretty bad information, and it became hard to sift through. But yeah, you do have to realize media outlets have a financial incentive to cover severe weather because it's one of their biggest money makers. Politics and weather. Again, that's one of the reasons I do not do politics here, but I've seen it firsthand. I've been involved with covering a lot of severe weather, and that's absolutely, they absolutely do that. There are, and I noticed there were some meteorologists that were better than others, but I saw some where I was really turned off to how dramatic they were making everything. Everyone's like category 5, but what they weren't telling you is that the storm was predicted to be weekend and not be a category 5 at landfall. But saying category 5 hurricane sounds a lot more dramatic than saying will make landfall as a category 2 or a category 3. So it was really frustrating for me to see all of these quote unquote weather experts put out just very conflicting and widely different information, and it was hard to sift through and figure out what was for real and what was being done for clicks, because I really don't know. I honestly don't know. All right, my sister evacuated. She has kids. Yeah, if you have, and that's the thing, we don't have kids, so it is a bit different. It's gonna be different for everyone. 8 hours to get from Zephyr Hills to Jacksonville, sometimes evacuating. Yeah, isn't that easy? She said people running out of gas all over. Yep. And you know what? I staying in my house, I felt I really do feel like that was our best option, because my mom kept asking if we wanted to go to her house, but she was more in the direct path of Hurricane Milton than we were. So, and it was still, yeah. Oh my gosh, all right, we got Andrew, welcome. Most people didn't leave. Yeah, exactly. So Andrew's another Florida resident. All right, most people didn't leave, only about 80,000 evacuated. And yeah, he has a good point. It's not like the entire state, evacuates. It's gonna be people in the most high risk areas. And those people are gonna know who they are, But yeah, I didn't evacuate. A lot of people in my area, most of my neighbors did not evacuate. So most people actually stayed. But it really irritated me as a resident to see all of these flippant comments telling me I was dumb or an idiot if I didn't leave the state. I'm like, come on. And it was super unhelpful, and it just caused me a lot more stress that I just didn't need. So I'm just being real, but that just wasn't super helpful. All right. Do your comments include the governors, mayors, police, and other safety officials who urged folks for days to leave? Okay, so Denise, I did see some of the officials making some fear, the ones if you don't leave, you're gonna die. And a lot of people in the evacuation zones didn't die, so that obviously wasn't true. They were more speaking to people that were in the evacuation. So there were mandatory evacuations. And I understood that they weren't speaking to me. They were mostly speaking to people who were in those mandatory evacuation zones. So I think and if you lived here for any amount of time, you get that. So I don't have I'm really not upset about a lot of that stuff, because I understood that those people they weren't speaking to people like me. They were speaking to they were speaking to the people in the 1950s, wood bungalow right on the beach. That's probably not going to be a good situation. And it was kind of difficult for them because they didn't know. At one point, there was a very real possibility that Hurricane Milton was going to hit just north of Tampa, which would have caused catastrophic surge waters into Tampa Bay. And that would have been horrible. And at that point, nobody really knew if that was going to happen or if it would end up going south, which it did. But I don't think it's wrong to prepare people for that scenario, because at the time they were telling people that it really was a like very real possibility that that was going to be the case. I also somehow did not know this, but there's been this long-standing folklore that there's like these like Indian burial grounds, like it's like the Tocobaga tribe or something, and there's these like burial mounds all over the Tampa Bay area, and I guess there's like a kind of a superstition that the Indian burial grounds have been protecting the Tampa Bay area from a direct hurricane hit for the past 100 years. I had no idea that was a thing. Again, I've lived here for a long time. I'm not sure how I never heard of that before, but people have this superstition that the Tampa Bay area is protected by like a magic, some sort of magic from the Indian tribe. So I was like, okay, I guess that's a thing. I mean, hey, if that's cool. I more think it has to do with like the geographical location of the Tampa Bay area. We're kind of tucked into the inside of the Florida Peninsula, and that's just not naturally where a lot of hurricanes go. So this Hurricane Milton was bizarre because it originated from this like bay near Mexico and came straight east. And I guess that has not happened since the 1800s. So I was like, this whole thing was bizarre. And I do think there were a lot of unknown factors with this one that made it more difficult for the meteorologists to predict. They were going to all these different models, and everyone was saying different things. But for me personally, so I'll say this. I was far more stressed out and had way more anxiety in the 5 days leading up to Hurricane Milton than actually experiencing the hurricane itself. And I think the reason is because there was an unknown factor and we didn't know what was actually going to happen. So once people understand where it's going to make landfall, what strength the storm will be, I almost had peace of mind just knowing more of what was actually going to happen, because it was driving me crazy not knowing. Like, at one point I saw some quote-unquote weather experts predicting that Milton was going to be a Category 5 at landfall. And again, the thought of a Category 5 hurricane hitting my area directly, I would have peaced out. And here's the thing, we still would have had time. I could have still evacuated Wednesday morning, gone to my mom's house. We live far enough away that one of us would have been in a better situation. So that's why I was like, was like, but again, yeah, we would not have stuck around for a Category 5 hurricane at a direct hit. Now, Category 5, if it was a couple hours away, 2-3 hours away, I would have stayed. So I think for us, it really depended on like what kind of strength this thing was going to have when it makes landfall, where it's going to make landfall, and what the deal is. So, I don't know. So there were a lot of things, and 5 days out, 3 days out, even 2 days out, we really didn't have enough information to like make we didn't have enough information to really make a concrete decision really until that morning. And then I realized we're actually better off here. And the storm weakened a lot as it got closer to making landfall. So I think that ended up being a really fortunate thing for everyone. It's still really bad, but it's not nearly as bad as it could have been. So yeah, okay. Also, there have been some weird little bugs I've seen everywhere since. I don't know if maybe they're trying to get inside, get away from the storm. I don't know. But there have been some weird bugs, like some tiny brown bugs in the house. I've been seeing them more often. So there's been some like kind of freakish things happening. And I will say this, we're going to talk more about post-hurricane shenanigans, because things are really getting getting crazy here. So I'm seeing like what it could be like in an apocalyptic type situation. And it's not pretty. It is not pretty. People are just really losing their shit over not having power. Like, literally, it's been, like, even after, like, 2 or 3 days of just no electricity, even if their homes are okay, people are not okay. People are not okay. All right, let's read a couple of the comments here. Okay, but they didn't do enough to get people out of harm's way during Ian. So, okay, I was here for Ian, and Ian changed direction kind of at the last minute. So, the people, originally, Ian was supposed to make kind of a direct path, again, right in my neighborhood. I was kind of freaking out. I think Ian ended up hitting as like a 4, and I think it was like only, like, I forgot how much advance notice we got before it made landfall. But Ian took like kind of a hard turn and ended up going like 2 hours south of me when it was originally supposed to go right over my house. So I do feel really bad for the people in, more of Southwest Florida, like Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Naples, because they were not expecting to get a direct impact from Hurricane Ian, because initially Ian was supposed to hit the Tampa Bay area. So again, that's why I think that's another thing that that kind of feeds into that Native American superstition, is that we keep getting all of these close calls and then it doesn't end up happening. So people are like, oh, we're being protected, by the Tocobaga tribe spirits or something. I don't know. I've lived in Florida for over 30 years. I remember a storm that everyone downplayed, and it turned out pretty bad. Yeah, hurricanes are hard to predict. They are hard. And that's why I wish more of these weather experts would just say, hey, we really don't know, can't pinpoint anything yet. I would rather they just be upfront with the fact that it's a crapshoot than try to pretend or try to make it out like they actually know what's up when they don't. So that kind of drives me a little bit crazy. Which meteorologist ended up being on the money? There is some account I followed on X called Florida Tropics. So they predicted Category 4 landing in Sarasota, Longboat Key. They kind of ended up being sort of right on the location. They were wrong on the category, but they ended up being kind of right. I'm not even sure who is the most correct or accurate. But I just saw a lot of really anonymous weather accounts where I didn't know who was behind it. I actually saw a few accounts where it's it was clearly a 20-year-old kid, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know how, I felt like that was almost irresponsible. I'm sorry, but if you're a teenager and you're doing this from your bedroom, you've got, you're a weather enthusiast. I think that's great. You're a weather enthusiast, but I think these people need to be careful with what they're putting out, because it could evoke a lot of fear and panic unnecessarily. And I think sometimes people are trying to be helpful and they're just causing more confusion. All right. Hello, Debbie. Welcome. Welcome. All right. Hello to see. Glad to see you too. All right. It's the old saying, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Okay. Yeah. AS, I know who you're talking about. The suspenders wearing meteorologist was pretty good. He wasn't sensationalizing his report. Yeah, I actually did watch a little bit. I actually used to work at that station. His name is Dennis Phillips, and he's with ABC Action News. He has been doing weather for a very long time. So yeah, I do know Dennis. I did work with him for a period of time. I actually really liked, I did like Greg D from ABC Action News. I thought he was very calm, and I liked his, he would put out daily kind of updates on Facebook, and I felt like his commentary was like trying to be more factual based, but also, you know, I felt like he was kind of more of a straight shooter, I guess. I don't know. So I thought he was pretty okay. There was another guy named like Matt from Wink News that I thought was all right. But like there's all these like random social media accounts and like YouTubers that I really felt like they were just trying to like, I really felt like they were just trying to sort of do all this like clickbaity dramatized weather coverage. And I didn't feel like some of that was very helpful. But yeah, I know you're talking, that is Dennis with one S Phillips. So I have been, you know, I did try to put some like videos and update you guys here on this channel. And as I was saying, like just going through hurricane, like it lasted about, I would say about 4 to 5 hours. And actually just going through it was, if I'm being 100%, it wasn't as, like it really wasn't as bad for me as I was expecting. I would say it was fairly similar to Hurricane Ian, just from the perspective of being in your house and dealing with all of the hurricane-like conditions. Ian was a stronger storm, but it was farther away. And I would say it was those two experiences were fairly comparable in terms of what I, you know, went through personally. They were pretty similar. Again, you just get a lot of, like, there's a lot of wind howling, there's, like, heavy rain, and your storm shutters rattle, but, like, it wasn't anything, like, it was, I wouldn't say it was, like, a terrifying experience or something. Like, I wasn't scared. My husband was gaming and, like, watching YouTube. And so, once you get to that point and you realize, you know, that's just going to happen, that part actually isn't that scary. I would say the most scary part is, I would say really is not knowing what exactly you're going to deal with. But once you know what you're going to deal with, you're more at kind of peace with what's about to go down. So the hurricane itself, again, it made landfall. Like, and they also shifted the landfall time. Originally, it was supposed to be, like, I think, like, 8 p.m. on Wednesday. At one point, it was, like, 2 a.m. on Thursday. And then it ended up moving faster. It ended up being, like, 7 p.m. I think things started around, like, 7 p.m. on Wednesday. And it was kind of over by midnight. So it was sort of, by then, it was gone through. And it was, you know, things were kind of, like, then things died down. And then in the morning, everyone was coming out to, you know, survey the damage and whatnot. But it was a little bit eerie because when you have your storm shutters up, you can't see anything going on outside. So you don't really know, you can't see like what kind of damage your home has taken. And there was a big concern because a lot of the storm debris from Helene, which was less than 2 weeks earlier, had not been picked up. I know the state and local municipalities really did try to pick up a lot of the debris, so it wouldn't become a hazard because it would be flying around in the hurricane. But even after Hurricane Milton, a lot of the Helene debris is still there now. So that was unusual because normally you don't have two hurricanes back to back like that. So but everyone was kind of worried about the Helene debris causing a lot of damage just from not being able to be picked up. So that was a concern. So yeah, we ended up going out the next day and we were really shocked that we did not have really significant damage. It was really just like some tree branches. My husband had trimmed the oak. We have a couple oak trees, which we hate. They're terrible. And he ended up majorly trimming the tree branch. He ended up majorly trimming one of the trees because the tree branches were like over the car we keep in the driveway. So he didn't want them to like fall onto the car or anything. We had two vehicles outside in the driveway and one inside the garage, and neither of the vehicles had any like noticeable damage. So we were kind of surprised by that. Our neighbors have like way more damage than we do. In fact, one of my neighbors, she reported in the Facebook group having her bedroom ceiling collapse during the hurricane. So she must have had some roof issues. And her whole bedroom ceiling fell in. And then she has a lanai, she said, and that ceiling fell in too. So they have extensive damage, and it probably has something to do with roof. Like, because my husband was thinking, like, in the worst case scenario, your roof gets blown off. A lot of water gets in, and then your ceiling is probably going to collapse. Your drywall is going to start to collapse just because all of this water and wind is getting in, and you don't really have anything like supporting the drywall. So if worst case scenario, your roof flies off or something, you're probably going to get some major structure collapse on the inside. But if you have a block construction home, that part's going to be, for the most part, okay. It's just, if you get to a category 5, you're probably at the very least losing your roof, having other types of damage. And a lot of our neighbors, like, there are just shingles everywhere. But yeah, we drove around because my husband has two friends that, one of them did lose their home in Helene because he just got a lot of flooding. So my husband and I went to drive around a little bit to check on some of his friends that evacuated. They live a lot closer to the water, and they live in low-lying areas. And the home that got destroyed by flooding during Helene, it really didn't sustain much damage from Hurricane Milton, which was pretty fortunate. So I would say in our area, the flooding was not nearly as bad as Helene. There was a lot of standing flood water in a lot of areas, and a lot of the street lights were out, so everything was like a four-way stop. I think a lot of counties, so the major counties in the Tampa Bay area are Pinellas County, that's St. Petersburg, Hillsborough County, which is Tampa. There's Pasco County, which is kind of above Hillsborough and Pinellas. Manatee County, which is below Hillsborough and Pinellas. And then there's Sarasota County. And like most of the people in all of those areas lost power after Milton. I don't know what happened to us, but we only lost power for 1 hour. We lost power around, I think, 8:30. And, we tried to do as much up until then as we could. We're like, okay, let's make sure everything's charged. We're going to, do everything we can, because we're probably going to lose power. So the lights went out. They came back on like 30 minutes later, and we're like, this is weird. Okay. They went back out. They came back on. And I think we lost power 3 times. But in total, we only were without electricity for maybe an hour total. I cannot say the same for most everyone in the entire area. I am seeing accounts even today of people who still do not have power, and it's been Thursday. So like Wednesday night, they lost power. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So a lot of people are on the 4th full day without power. And they've got thousands of linemen trying to restore power. As we were driving around the day after, there were a lot of downed trees on power lines, which is probably the brunt of why a lot of people don't have electricity. Again, seems crazy to me why all of these trees are so close to power lines. Just my observation here. Another thing I did notice is that a lot of our neighbors with substantial damage have 2-story homes. And I will say this, I have a real strong opinion about builders who do the first floor concrete block and the second floor wood frame and stucco. I personally would be very cautious. If I was going to buy a 2-story home, I would want both stories to be block construction. So that's another thing you have to keep in mind if you are thinking about purchasing a home in an area prone to hurricanes or like things like tornadoes, is you want to make sure the entire structure is block, not just the first floor if you got 2 stories. My husband was talking to one of our neighbors, and I guess he saw another neighbor who, like, during one storm, the second floor of their home, which was, so the first floor was block construction, the second floor was what he said, the second floor actually got got off kilter off the first floor during one storm. So I think it should be like building code or standard building code that if you're going to do multiple story homes, the entire structure should be block and not wood. Again, in a category 5 hurricane, a second story wood structure is, I mean, it's just going to be gone. It does not stand a chance. But a block construction home is going to stand up much better in a category 4 or a category 5 storm. All right, let me check the comments. Let's see what everybody's saying. Okay, the scariest moment was, like, honestly, it was the scariest unknown for me was not knowing where Hurricane Milton was going to make landfall. That, for me, was the scariest aspect. Once we had more information, because that was the piece of information I really wanted to know, was how far away is this thing going to be from me? Because even the strength was, like, less of a factor. Like, if it hit Naples and it was category 5, you know, I would have stayed. Category 5, close to us, we would have GTFO'd. So the scariest aspect is that the unknown period, like the period of time where nobody knows what the track of the storm is going to be. And then you see all the spaghetti models and they're all over the place. There's like the European model, the American model, and like they were all like, and it was just frustrating seeing like just all of, like there was just too much, I felt like there was too much information that was unknown. And I'm like, all right, this is not helpful. Yeah, all right, yeah, I slept through it. I prefer a nighttime hurricane lull. Yeah, like, we were actually kind of glad it happened earlier just because we were glad it was over by the time we went to bed. We're like, okay, we're good for now. Let's just go to bed. Looney, no, because a lot of them do not have power even now. And a lot of the gas stations, so there is a huge gas scarcity in the entire region right now because a couple things happened. I think there was some flooding or something at the port of Tampa, so gas tankers couldn't get in for a while. And the other thing is that a lot of gas stations don't have electricity, so they can't open the gas pumps. So a lot of businesses in our area still are not open. Schools are not open. And it's not even because of the storm damage. It's because they don't have electricity. We still do have water. They are telling us to try to conserve our water use because a lot of the wastewater station pumps don't have electricity, so there could be sewage issues. So our county is telling us to try to conserve wastewater so that we don't get sewage issues, which could be pretty gross. Yeah, so that's the issue here, is that a lot of areas still right now do not have power. And I can say things are starting to get like less civilized and more ugly by the hour. I'm seeing some really wild stuff going on in local Facebook groups. And people are getting like desperate. They're getting panicked. And it's not even just because of the hurricane. It's just because of the power outages and the gas. Like people are waiting and again, we were pretty prepared. My husband has several gas cans that he filled up beforehand. So we have not needed to deal with that at this point. And since we didn't lose power, we didn't have to use it for our generator. So we have both propane and gas, and our generator runs on either of those things. We also have a bunch of solar powered stuff, like solar powered power banks. So we could have done that. So my husband and I were prepared to go for at least a week without power. And, somehow we are one of the very few people that didn't lose power for a long period of time, which we're very grateful for. I think I actually know why. So a few weeks before the hurricane, I would say about 3 weeks ago, we lost power for about 6 hours during the day. I think something had gotten broken or like a transformer blew or something. So we actually had workers fixing our neighborhood a couple weeks ago. And I'm kind of thinking that that's the reason we didn't really lose power for a long time, is because they had just made some repairs to our neighborhood a few weeks ago. So it hadn't been, so I'm thinking maybe our stuff was like updated and like fixed. So I think that's why we were one of the like very, very few neighborhoods that have electricity. People are starting to get it back now. At one point, our county had like 500,000 people without power, and we had like 3 million people across the state. I think at this point, the lack of electricity and the lack of gas is really like causing a lot of chaos now. And I also want to say too that although for me, the scariest part of this experience wasn't the actual hurricane itself, I would obviously feel very different if our home had substantial damage. Like, if our roof had blown off and our ceiling had collapsed, that obviously would have been the most stressful and scary part of things. But because we were fortunate to not have really any damage, the actual hurricane part, for me, was not the worst part of it. But I think I think if your roof blew off, or, something hit your house, a tree fell on your house, a roof caved in, that would have been much stressful than the lead up to the hurricane. But if, knock on wood, you're fortunate enough not to have any major storm damage, at least in my situation, I would say the most stressful part was, leading up to it and not the actual hurricane itself. I'm just being honest here. I'm just being honest. So yeah, a lot of businesses don't have power. That's been kind of nuts. Like the Facebook posts I'm seeing are like getting like, people are really I think people are starting to lose their minds and their sanity just with like 4 days without power. People are like, things are starting to evolve. And I feel like I'm getting like a little glimpse into what things would be like into total chaos, but on a very small scale. Because again, this isn't even like the worst case scenario, like for real. The worst case scenario is, could be way worse, but you're like just seeing what can happen to an area just without electricity, internet, and gas. It's getting kind of ugly. Like the Facebook, I'm starting to see some crazy stuff on Facebook and online, and it's like, I'm like, wow, okay. And I know you can be like, well, it's easy for you to say, Jen, you have electricity, and that is true, but we also prepared, we were fully prepared to go without power for a week or more and deal with things. So a lot, and it's sad to see a lot of people in our area seem like they were very underprepared, and they were not, they were really not ready for this kind of scenario where gas is hard to come by, and they don't have generators. They don't have like all of this stuff like we do. We've got a bunch of portable stuff. We've got like propane, and a lot of people really, I feel like a lot of people were not prepared for this, because even during Helene, we didn't get this level of power outages. There was no gas shortage during Helene. So a lot of like this post-hurricane landscape here is getting pretty dicey. I'll say it's getting pretty dicey here for sure. So to answer your question, no, a lot of stuff here is not open. Yeah, it's not. It's going to be a while. It's going to be a few more days for some people. And a lot of the local businesses here got quite a bit of damage from Helene and then from Milton. So yeah, it's the area, even though it wasn't quote unquote that bad, it's still pretty bad. Like, it's still pretty bad. And you can see in the video I posted the other day, like driving around town, like there was a lot of damage. But yeah, I don't understand. The things I want to know is, why are we still doing shingle roofs in Florida? I feel like that should not be a thing. And we need to be putting on roofs that are a lot more durable. Block construction only, elevated. And definitely no vinyl fences. Vinyl fences are not a good, really not a good choice for Florida. And also the trees being near power lines, I don't get that either. I think that's, like, we could have prevented a lot of this power outage situation just by not having the power lines so close to the trees. Like, that really doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Yeah, that's true. There is a lot of money in rebuilding. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm not sure if Joann's is open. The ones without power, they probably were not open. They had to sell those Christmas-themed skeletons. I did see, though, that Spirit Halloween store is apparently going to be selling, they're apparently going to be doing Spirit Christmas stores. I guess to, like, further, capitalize on the holiday season. So I guess we have to look forward to that. All right, hello, Enigmatic. Glad to see you. Yeah, everything is okay with us. We really, just got, like, very, very minor stuff here. And yeah, I really didn't think the most stressful part of this whole ordeal was the hurricane itself. It was the unknown factors, and it was not knowing. Yeah, and it was also kind of crazy to see people politicize hurricanes, like, in either direction. I was like, this is not helpful either. So, yeah. On the positive side, though, there are a lot of relief efforts going on in local communities here. So that is kind of, like, there's a lot of help here. There's a lot of organizations here distributing supplies. There's also, like, this is kind of a mess, but they're trying to give out free gas. But people are waiting in line for several hours in their cars to get gas, the free gas. People are giving out they're doing, like, barbecues, handing out emergency supplies. So, and I will say, going through this also kind of helped us to see what we would do the next time this happens. Like, there are some things we could probably do differently to be even more prepared. So we're going to be probably doing that. Because there's always something you can do better. But I do feel like we were better prepared than I think most people in this area, which is kind of sad. Like it's just sad when, people just, like, have no backup plan, no emergency supplies, and 2 days without power, and they are, like, on the brink of it. So that's not good. Yeah, it's like, just get a gas can and at least fill that up so you've got one more, you can top off your tank, something like that. But, like, now everyone's clamoring to get gas, and it's crazy. OMG, I saw that too. They're just going to be year-round store. Yeah, like, it's going to be Spirit, Spirit everything, I guess. I don't know, I remember there used to be a store that sold Christmas stuff all year round. I think it was called Christmas Shop. I think I remember. I know what you're talking about. No one remembers it. I wonder if it was a fever dream. Yeah. Fever dream. Yeah, I don't know, All right, I see the people getting help and relief, and it's nice, but when I see the total destruction, I feel the government needs to take over. Florida has to overhaul the bill. So here's the thing. They actually did do that. They've done that a number of times over the years. And Enigmata, the homes that are being destroyed, they're mostly the older homes. So I've even seen emergence, like the officials say this, the homes built like after the 2000s, those homes really don't, like, those are not the homes that are being obliterated. The homes that you're seeing on TV that are being washed away or like totally wiped out, they are like the mobile homes. They are the homes that were built before the 2000s. But quite honestly, if you're in a home built like after the mid 2000s, like the risk of that being totally destroyed is very low. So they actually have been overhauling the building guidelines a number of times over the years. And the people with really high premiums have old roofs and they have older homes and or they are near the water. So it's a very small percentage, a very, very small percentage of all of the homes in Florida that are the ones that are the most susceptible to, severe catastrophic damage. So again, I think if you don't live here, you get a much different picture of you get like one picture that you see on the news. And I can tell you this, what you see on the news is not real life. It is just not real life. They always go to the same neighborhoods that are prone to flooding with the older homes. Eventually, those homes are going to have to be replaced with better built structures. And that actually is happening. You are starting to see those homes, the homes built in the 1920s, being replaced with much better, solid structures that can withstand hurricane force winds. And the winds are really, like the winds and the storm surge are the thing that is happening. And I hate to say it, but eventually we are going to get to the point where you're not going to be able to live on the water unless you've got a lot of money, because again, your insurance, like if you have insurance, it's going to be astronomical. And quite honestly, it probably should be, because the risk there is very high. And the standards for the type of home you're going to build, it's going to have to be like a very expensive build that can, where the engineering and the features can actually withstand, category 3 to 5 storms and all the storm surge. So, yeah. Okay, I'm not sure what you're talking about, cement house lady. Those are the standards. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Oh, rebrand us. Okay, I like the Spirit 365. What if they just call it like, let's see here, like Spirit, yeah, that could work, Spirit 365. And what if they had stuff for every single holiday all the time? So it was just called Spirit 365. You got Christmas stuff, you got Halloween stuff, you got Valentine's Day stuff, you got all kinds of stuff, Thanksgiving. And they have all of the holiday stuff all the time. Whatever. That would be interesting. Yeah, that's the thing. It's not true. At this point, most of the residents here in Florida live in homes like mine that are block construction, built to newer codes. Again, they come with storm shutters, so our windows aren't going to get blown out. Yeah, I could not even believe what I was seeing in a mobile park. And I will say this, I have relatives that have an older home in Bradenton right on the water. They live on the water. They've got a boat dock. They've got a pool. Their home was fine. And they didn't even get anything during Helene. So I have relatives that live in Bradenton on the waterfront property. It's not a newer home. It is an older home. I think they just had their pool redone. And they sustained no significant damage from either Helene or Milton. And this is a waterfront home. So, don't believe again, you have to understand that media outlets make the most money on severe weather and like really big tragedies, like 9/11, that kind of thing. School shootings, they make a lot of, so you have to realize there is a monetary incentive to cover like very dramatic stuff and try to make it as sexy as possible. Like, I've seen it firsthand. And sometimes I would just roll my eyes, like, because they would, like, I've had news directors and assistant news directors and managers that really wanted to play up the weather, when it really was, like, kind of not, and I think that's almost dangerous to the point because if everything is, if everything is a catastrophe, then nothing is a catastrophe. And people aren't going to take you seriously because everything ever is like the worst thing on planet Earth. So you have to keep in mind that, yeah, there is a real financial incentive to cover severe weather, politics, tragedies, and like really big news events, and make it as sexy as possible because they make money. They make money based on viewership. And so they're going to do whatever they can to get for ratings. So a lot of this stuff is, it's for ratings. That's the 100% truth here. But yeah, I've got relatives live on the water in an older home, not built to current standards, on the water. And they got like basically, I was really surprised. They got they really have like no damage. I think they have like some down tree branches. So, like, quite honestly, we did avoid the worst case scenario. Maybe it is that Indian tribe. I don't know. But now at this point, like, the ugliest part of this thing is people like losing their shit because of the power outages and because of the gas scarcity. Like, at this point, that's almost like the, and there has been some post-storm flooding in like the rivers and more, and there's been a lot of water rescues from like areas that I didn't even know were prone to flooding, like Lithia, and like I've seen like Dover. I saw like a crazy water rescue video there. I've seen some animal water rescues. Like, it's been things have been really nuts here for sure. All right, I live in the Pacific Northwest. In the 90s, we had a rare earthquake, and the news crews drove around for hours. Yeah, that's what they do. They drove around for hours looking for damage, yeah. And I will say, I've been part of it, Denise, I'm ashamed to say, I have been a part of this crap. Like, and, I'm not sad I don't have, like, I really am, it's a relief I don't have to do this anymore, because it sucks. It really sucks. The news crews drove around for hours, yeah, looking for damage. They found one guy with a broken arm, but it wasn't earthquake related. Yeah, and they probably would still try to, like, be like, oh my gosh, like, and that's real. Like, they gotta, like, when you're working in newsrooms, they have to have something to put on TV, and they're gonna do whatever they can to make air, no matter what that is, Even if they gotta connect dots that don't really go together, they're okay with that because they have a news program to put on. And I hate to say this, but some of the personalities there's a lot of ego in the news business, and these people get kind of like weirdly excited about stuff like this because, like, this is their time, you know what I mean? Like, it's their time to shine. They're gonna make a name for themselves. They're gonna get awards, like, they have something to gain for this, personally and professionally, and I'm seeing this with a lot of people now, like, they want to get social media followings, from covering certain things, and this is a very vanity driven business, and you could probably kind of see that, and so a lot of these people kind of get off on this kind of stuff because they see this as an opportunity for them, to make a name for themselves, to use this to springboard into better jobs. They're gonna, they get better tape for their resume reel, so they can get maybe a network job or like go to a bigger market. They're gonna win an Emmy award, because they refer, because they were, got a stand up in the hurricane. So there's a lot of other factors in why the media covers severe weather, like hurricanes. All right, hello, Vicky. Thank you very much. Hi, so glad Your family is, yeah, we're doing okay. Everyone's okay. Sounds like you need Daryl and, wait, who are Daryl and Carol? Daryl and Carol to patrol the neighborhood. Yeah, so true. There was a reporter in a flooded area trying to get an elderly resident to say how much her life was destroyed. But each time she asked, she responded with the most positive, yeah, like, and I'll tell you this, it's not uncommon. So a reporter, when you see their story on the air, it's called a package. So a package is like a pre-taped like segment, and it's like voiceover with the reporter, it's sound bites with various people, like interviews, it's a like sexy B-roll, you got a reporter stand up, and usually they will front that live. So they'll be doing their live shot, you know, the anchor tosses to them out in the field, then the reporter has like an intro they toss to the package, and then they come back out and finish their live shot. And I've seen this happen a lot, where the reporter, that like even before they go shoot the story, they've already got the angle. They've already got the angle predetermined. So what they will do a lot of the time is, usually it's a 2-person crew with local news. It's a photographer who shoots, edits the video, and they also drive. They usually do the driving, and they also set up the live shot. So when you see them in the big trucks, they're also the live truck operator. It's a lot of work, actually. It's probably more than the reporter sometimes. The reporter will be making phone calls in the car, setting up interviews, writing their story while they're in the car. But usually it's the photographer who drives, and the reporter typically, you know, like it's a little bit less physically intense. I'll just say that. A lot of the reporters, they'll pre-write the package. Like, say they're going to a city council meeting, like they will write their package on the way there, or like while they're sitting the meeting, before they even interview anybody, because they already know what angle they want to do. Then they will interview people at whatever their shoot is, whatever the scene is. And especially when you're doing like the man on street interviews, like, how do you feel about gas prices being too high? Or what do you think about this new legislation? They will find people who fit, like, and so they'll write the package, they'll leave spots for the interview sound bites, and then they will find people that fit whatever soundbite they need. So like, say they're doing a story about high gas prices, they'll want one person to say, you know, they don't really want people to say like, we don't really care if the gas prices are high. They're trying to get people to say that it's really hurt, you know, it's really been a financially stressful for them. They're on a tight budget. They want to find like a pizza delivery guy that relies on, you know, that really is more impacted by the gas prices. But they'll typically write the story beforehand. Like, it's very common. They'll write the package or their story kind of before they even talk to anybody or like get any perspectives. And then they'll kind of find people that they feel fit what they're looking for. So they'll try to find like the pizza delivery guy or somebody that relies on driving for a living, you know, like a florist, or like somebody that is, you know, an Amazon driver, somebody like that, an Uber driver, somebody that's greatly impacted by the gas prices, but they've kind of already got in their head what kind of person they need to fit the story. So sometimes if they're doing those man on street interviews, they just interview enough people until they have like someone that fits. They're almost like casting people for the story, and they're just looking for people who like fit that, you know, you kind of fit the bill, you know what I'm saying? And that happens, like that just happens a lot. That's just, you know, how they are. All right, we had one newscaster on the scene guy we referred to as Danger Jim. I will say I love the people that have like a franchise, like like there was one guy in Michigan. I used to like work with the station, and he was called Help Me Hank. There was like Help Me Hank, and he would like help people with like random, you know, situations. And there was another one called, there was another guy called Help Me Howard in New York City. I think he works for like WPXI, like Help Me Howard. So like you could call him and, you know, he would help you out with different, you know, difficult situations or whatever. Like that kind of thing. Like I'll never forget one time the Help Me Howard guy had a story. So the story was this woman hired a cat sitter. I forgot like where they found the cat sitter. But the cat sitter was doing some like very inappropriate things in the apartment while they were cat sitting. But they had, the homeowner had surveillance video of like these like steamy activities. So like the package was really kind of comical. You know, it was like cat sitter found, hooking up with somebody, you know, on the job or whatever. And I took in the package because I thought it was kind of humorous, but I was talking to somebody at the station. He's like, yeah, I don't know really who Howard helped with this. Yeah, so sometimes you get stuff like that. But yeah, I love the guys. I love the people with like there's like the consumer reporters or like the people that are like, you know, you can get them to help you with their situation, like the Help Me Hank people or the Help Me Howard people. And that's sort of their whole like brand is, you know, doing that kind of thing. It's kind of funny. So yeah, it's a wild time. But yeah, if you guys have any questions about the hurricane, news, business, whatever, Florida, now's your time. We're just hanging out and chatting. It's kind of a mess over here. I don't have my overhead camera. So during the storm, I put away all the cameras and I put them, you know, wrapped them up in plastic because we were fully prepared for like if the ceiling falls down and water's coming in, I wanted to protect some of my like bigger ticket items. Like I did that to my sewing machine just in case something happened to that. Just so that like, you know, again, if water's coming in, you're not going to have a lot of time to save your stuff. So I preemptively went around and I covered a lot of stuff with plastic so that say the roof gets blown off, which it didn't, and water starts pouring in, that may like there wouldn't be as much damage. I am glad I did that. I ended up not needing to do that, but you know, I don't regret doing it because you know, worst case scenario, you know, that could have happened for real. But yeah, I don't know what happened to my so I've got two of these microphones. This one, again, they're the same. This one, like, this is the one I normally use. I don't know if maybe something happened with the power outages or something. Maybe it got fried. But when I plug in the microphone, it's got the audio is really distorted. So I think it might have gotten fried. I'm wondering if maybe it got fried just from like the power surge. I don't know. So this one might be dead. I don't know. I still have not used I didn't get to use my emergency radio. So, but I'm glad I have it. And one of my husband's friends was without power for a few days, so we ended up lending them our cooler. And we lent them some of our battery packs. So I still have this one. This is my Anchor. By the way, if you want to see a list of my hurricane emergency supplies, I do have a link in the description box. It is affiliate. I paid for all of these things. If it can help you, cool. Some of these things are good to have on hand in an emergency. So I still do we have 2 solar powered power banks. We lent those to my husband's friend because at least if they don't have power, they could, you know, bring them outside and recharge their like devices. Okay, let me try to move this. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'll have to test this out, but the power outage may have fried. They may have fried this microphone. I'm not really sure. So hopefully not. These are kind of cheap now, so I could always buy another one. But you know, yeah, I tried to. So that's one of the reasons why we were a little bit late tonight was because I ended up having to like switch out the microphone because this is the new. I'm glad I bought 2 now. You know, I was kind of like maybe 2 is overkill, but it ended up not being a bad decision because if this one got fried during the power outage. By the way, does my audio sound okay? Like, does it sound crackly at all or like distorted? Because this one just sounds like really, like it sounds really garbled. And I also hear like a crackling sound, like I don't know what's going on. So this one might have kicked the bucket. It might have gotten fried by the power outage. I did get to use my vlogging camera, and I got to really kind of test out my new microphone system. I really like this. It's a good thing. Yeah, and I also got this. Yeah, there's these like real weird bugs. Like I'm seeing a few of these like tiny brown bugs, which is they're kind of weird looking. But they're kind of popping up. Maybe they were trying to get away. Maybe they sensed there was a storm coming and they were trying to get away. I'm not really sure. Okay, so the audio sounds good. So quite honestly, I do not. My stuff really isn't like ours would fall really under like our personal stuff. I don't really have enough equipment to make it worthwhile. And I did look into getting insurance for my gear. And the price didn't, like, quite honestly, the price did not make sense. So, I might ask my insurance agent if I need a separate rider policy. Actually, I might do that, like, pretty soon. But when I was looking into, like, photography insurance for photographers and stuff, like, the premiums were, like, they really just did not make sense. So I did not do that. Oh, like the guy who clamped his home. Okay, I have not heard of that. Also, I do want to touch on this. You might have seen that guy who's been going viral, Lieutenant Dan. By the way, he was not in the military. Who had like a little rinky boat that he was docking on Tampa Bay, and he rode out Helene and Milton. Look, I will say this. If you are going to donate your money or give money to anyone who claims to be a hurricane victim, or, you know, you're giving your money to some sort of nonprofit, definitely do your research and vet the organization or the individual. I've seen this guy, Lieutenant Dan, get a ton of attention. I've never heard of the guy before a couple of days ago. He's also not from the area, and I know people are kind of digging up stuff from his past. He does have a lengthy arrest record. There are some red flags with this guy. I don't know if he's for real or not. I am not going to be giving this guy any money. Apparently, a streamer is going to buy him a new boat. Good for him. But I will say this. This guy is not a long-time Tampa fixture. Like, it's not like he's been doing this for a decade, living on the Tampa Bay in his boat. It looks like he showed up here a couple months ago. And, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. But I saw this guy going viral on TikTok. And I even saw him, like, they had to address this situation in press conferences. I saw him on CNN. I would be pretty wary about giving money to people like that, especially if you really have never heard of them before. You can't vet them. Like, I'll just say it's a little bit suspicious to me that this guy kind of just showed up out of nowhere. It looks like he may have gotten here about a month ago. That's really not a very long time. He doesn't appear to be a local. And I'm not really sure what he's doing. But I'm a little bit skeptical. I know he's got like multiple GoFundMes. I'm not really sure why. And also even though they're calling him Lieutenant Dan, he is not a veteran, and I don't believe he has any military service. So I feel like that's one of those things where I think people might get like, people have a heart and they want to help people, but make sure you're helping people who actually need the help and are legitimate. So, but I've seen that guy around a lot. Yeah. Yeah, I think I remember that one too. Couple, they claim they found a war vet and collected hundreds of thousands. Yeah, I would be careful with any of that stuff, especially GoFundMes. I'm a little bit skeptical about like the vast majority of all the GoFundMes I see and like the stories. Everybody's got a sob story now. Everyone's trying to raise money. Like, what does this guy need? Like, okay, he lives on a boat. He lives on Tampa Bay. I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just like, but yeah, he is not as far as I know, this guy is not like a long time fixture in the area. You know, like, I think it would be different if he's been here for 20 years or something. From my understanding, it seems like he just showed up here kind of recently, and I'm not really sure what the motivation is, but this is kind of strange. The whole thing is a little weird. I do find it a little weird. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, hey, if this streamer guy, I think Aiden Ross, is getting him a kick deal, like a kick deal, and $100,000 boat, that's his decision. But yeah, I see a lot of people donating to this money to this guy, and you really don't. I feel like a lot of these people really don't know enough about the people and the causes they're giving money to. You just got to be careful. I'm just saying that. Again, I don't know this person, but yeah, I'm like, who is this guy? I just have no idea who this guy is. Yeah. Yeah, and that's another point. He refused to go to a shelter. Like, why are you, like, this guy had options. He did not need to stay in the boat. There were there were shelters open. He could have gone to one of those. It just seemed to be a little odd. That did seem to be a little odd to me. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? I would just say if you're making a donation, vet the people or the organization you're giving the money to make sure you're actually helping people in need. Like, for instance, like, there's a lot of relief efforts going on in my area. I am definitely not going to go there and, like, take free stuff because I don't need it. Like, I have power, I have gas. I don't need free food or, free supplies because I already have that. So I don't want to take up resources from someone who truly needs it because I am not in need in that particular way. So, again, my home I did not sustain significant home damage. I am not injured. So, I'm just, I'm definitely not driving to try to get free gas. So again, I think, I do hope the people who really do need those things, I hope they're able to get it. And I'm really happy to see all of these efforts going on locally to help people that truly do need some assistance because this is a rough time. Even though I'm fine, a lot of people in my area are not okay. A lot of them did lose everything they own. And a lot of them lost it during Helene and not even Milton. All right, hold on a second. I gotta. But yeah, things are starting to get pretty real here. If people don't get power back soon, I think I think things are gonna start getting even uglier. But yeah, the Facebook groups are like totally unhinged. Like, people have totally gone off the rails. And I understand, like, some folks are in very desperate situations. I'm also seeing some, like, honestly kind of crazy posts too. Like, no offense to these people, but, like, I'm seeing posts, like it'll be say, like, I need someone to bring me gas for 2 cars. But, like, in a way where it's like, okay, what? Gas is a very scarce resource right now. Okay, I would say the vast majority of people don't have that much, like, they don't have gas to give away for somebody to fuel up 2 cars, first of all. And 2, like, it's like they're expecting someone to use their own gas to deliver gas to them, and they weren't even offering, like, they weren't offering to pay them or, like, anything like that. So you're starting to see posts that are very, like, kind of like, I'm just saying they're not going to get very many takers. Like, that post got no replies. Because I'm like, that is a little bit much. Like, maybe say, like, hey, can you get me, like the posts that are getting positive responses, they're very specific. They're humble. They're not entitled. And they're offering, like, to pay, like, they're like, hey, I will pay you for the gas, or I will pay you for ice. But I am seeing some people that I don't know what world they're living in, but some of the requests in the Facebook groups are getting a little bit ridiculous. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know about, I saw someone posting like, I need someone to help me remove storm shutters off the second floor. And again, if someone's, again, like, people are very generous, but I can understand a lot of people right now are in tough situations and we're all just trying to make it. You know, asking for someone to like drive to where you are to help you take down I'm sorry, but taking down your storm shutters is one, not an emergency. And two, you would probably get a lot more positive a response if you offer to pay, you know, there was no mention of compensating the person. It's like, I need someone to come over and take down my storm shutters off my second floor. All right, they have a ladder. And they did say they have a ladder. So it's like, why can't you do it yourself? Okay. And then if you're going to ask someone to go out of their way to help you, like, again, some people really are nice and generous, but I feel like having that expectation isn't super reasonable. But you're going to get a lot more takers if you're like, hey, I'll give you $100, or, you know, I'll buy you, you know, I'll like pay for your food or something, you know, we'll order you know, like something like that. And the funny thing was, for that post, the only response they got was someone advertising a handyman service. So they're basically saying, yeah, we'll come do it, but this is a paid service, which I actually thought was kind of, you know, like appropriate, because I'm sorry, but like, yeah, like if you're asking people to do manual labor for you, like, it's like, are you expecting people to do it for free? Like, some people might do it, like, if they know you, or, you know, there are, and there actually are organizations going around helping people with stuff like that. But they're also, those organizations are mostly helping people with, like, people who have home damage, or who lost their home, or, you know, who had, like, flooding. Like, this person's home is fine. They're just trying to get someone to remove storm shutters. Again, that's not really an immediate need. And I thought it was a little bit cheeky to be like, I need someone to do this, but you're not offering them any incentive to come over and help you. Plus, they would have to use their own gas to come to your house to help you. So I kind of have to eye roll at some of these posts. Like, oh, and I saw one post where the person was like, can anyone deliver hot food for me, my daughter, and my boyfriend? And I was like, really? And again, none of these, like, the trend I'm noticing with the posts that are like the most ridiculous, they're not offering to pay the person to do it. It's like, you know, can you bring me some hot meals? And then they're like, no gas, so we can't go anywhere. And I was like, maybe you should have done like some preparation, but it is a little bit low-key scary how woefully unprepared most people were for this situation, where they just had like no mental grasp on the fact that we could have that we would be losing power for a significant period of time. And that's what's happening for most residents here in the area. So some of these requests, I'm just like again, some people might be willing to help you, but I think the way you ask makes a big difference. And, you know, if someone wants to and also this is voluntary. So if somebody wants to help, cool, but you can't be upset if no one's going to take you up on your offer of doing free manual labor for you for free. So I'm just like, I don't know. I'm starting to see some like kind of weird entitled posts in there. And a lot of posts, there's so many posts asking where you can get gas. So I'm starting to see some real interest. I'm starting to see some very interesting Facebook posts in these local groups. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, some folks are refusing FEMA aid because they don't trust the federal government. I'm actually seeing some posts in our Facebook groups of people saying they have been denied. I didn't apply, so I don't know. But yeah, it is kind of weird, you know. hey, good for these utility workers. Yeah, and you know what? Here's the thing. That is why you need to provide financial incentive. For these people that are going to be making a lot of money helping Florida, would someone be coming down from Canada if it was not going to be worth it for them? Probably not. And then Florida would be out of power even longer. So you do need to provide some sort of, enough of an incentive that people from other areas are going to want to help get you back online. All right, the key is to learn the lessons. I live in an apartment, so I can't use a generator. I bought a power station instead. Yeah, and that's a good thing. And there are some really nice, beefier power stations now. Once things calm down, I'm looking into a better one that can be solar powered. Yeah. In fact, one of my friends said he was going to look into a whole house generator soon. So really depends on your situation. But yeah, you can do solar powered stuff. You can do like there are some very large power banks that can power more stuff, can power your fridge, can power like a window air conditioning unit. And one, I think, saving grace for this whole situation is that it's not super hot right now. So the temperatures at night have been in the 60s, and then during the day, like around 80. So I think one positive about this is that it's not July or something, and it's not, we're not like, you're not gonna suffer like from heat stroke because the temperatures are at least a bit better at this time of the year. So, yeah, and I've seen so many like things like I've seen, like the electric companies posting updates on like the timelines, and people are just bitching. Like people are just bitching and going off in the comments. But they have to realize like there's over 5,000, utility workers in my county alone. It takes time. And again, I am super grateful. Believe me, it's not lost on me that I am one of the very fortunate people because we have power. But at the same time, people expect like this to happen instantly. And for many areas that are damaged, it's going to take a few days, like at least a few days to get your power back, especially depending on what area you're in. So yeah, maybe this could be a wake-up call to some people that you should be prepared, get some stuff together for emergency situations. Like we've had our ice maker running 24/7, and we've been bagging up ice and putting it in the chest freezer so we could put in the cooler for when the power went out. So we were doing some things like that days before. We've got plenty of bottled water. We filled up the bathtubs. So we really tried to do our due diligence. We've got like emergency stuff. And even though we didn't end up needing a lot of it, I'm glad we had it. And I also see some, kind of blind spots that we could improve upon. So definitely, yeah, looking to prepare. Yeah. Oh, actually, yeah, AS, we have one, and we lent it. My husband lent it to the friend who lost power for a long time. So we actually have two. We have not one, but we have two butane. We have two butane burners. And since we didn't need them, so my husband has a friend who, I think they got their power back, but he lent them two of our power banks with the solar panels on them. And he lent them a cooler. We put ice in it, and then we lent him, I forgot about this. We lent him one of our propane or butane camping burners. So we had two of them. We also have a grill, so we have a grill and propane. So we could have grilled out a lot of our food and stuff. So we had a lot of options. I felt, and that's the scary thing is I'm like, we're some of the more prepared people. Like, what were these other people doing? But man, these Facebook groups, they are. Things are starting to get kind of crazy in them. I'm just gonna say that. So yeah, we were less than 50 miles from the center of Hurricane Milton. So yeah, less than 50 miles. Yeah, where it actually did hit. But at one point, depending on where we were within that cone of uncertainty, so it could have hit us more directly for sure. I think we still would have been okay, but I think our home would have had more damage. So we probably, if it had been a more direct hit with the Category 3 hurricane, I think we would have had a significant roof damage, but I think we would have been okay. Like, quite honestly, because category 3 indirect, but still kind of close by. Like, quite frankly, it was not, like, just from an experience level, it really was not super crazy. It was kind of loud at points, but I was not really that, like, I was really not that scared at that point, because I knew it was a weaker storm, and I knew, just having the knowledge that it was like an hour south of us, probably about an hour south of us, driving, was like, actually gave me peace of mind. But yeah, I felt like we were pretty well prepared. You know, we also have some emergency food that's in my that's in my hurricane supplies link as well. We have emergency food that would probably last us a few months. We also have those life straws, so you could take like standing water or random water and it like filters it out and makes it drinkable. So we have some life straws. Got this emergency radio. We had two solar power banks, so we could have continuously powered our phones and stuff. So I felt like we were in a better position. And since we didn't end up needing a lot of that stuff, my husband lent it to his friend that lost power for a few days, since we were in a better position. So, oh man, I'm sorry. All right, we've got survived Milton here I'm sorry about your condo. Yeah, and it's wild because you would kind of think, like, the farther you get away from the center of the storm, like, the less damage there would be. And that's actually kind of like the damage from the property damage is kind of, it's a bit random. Especially like if you have a tree fall on your house or like other things. There's actually flooding in a lot of inland spots. So yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that. I hope you're okay physically. Obviously, things could be better in regards to your home. Did you evacuate, or did you stay in your condo, and where are you staying now? Yeah, like and I just want to reiterate, even Helene caused a lot of catastrophic damage, and the Helene never made landfall on the west coast of Florida. It made landfall like in the Panhandle. So it wasn't even quote unquote that bad, and it was still really bad. Okay. We have a butane camp stove, the best to have, and oil lamps. Yeah, actually oil lamps probably wouldn't be a bad thing to have. Yeah, but yeah, I even forgot we had the butane stove. I kind of forgot we had it, but we do have it. And we have a bunch of battery operated lights. We got plenty of batteries. Because yeah, we're seeing things get real, and people have been out of power in our area for going on 5 days. So this is like the 5th day. So Wednesday, it was Wednesday at night, but still, still counts. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So a lot of people here are on day 5 of no power, and gas is really hard to come by. So if this helps any of you try to prepare for a disaster or an emergency, I hope it does, because we're seeing stuff get real now, and a lot of people clearly didn't have a lot of like non-perishable food to eat. So have a lot of stuff on hand that you can eat that doesn't need refrigeration. Have stuff, prepare, have a cooler, definitely have if you're able to, definitely get a generator. And before things happen, make sure you get some extra gas. Like, not just fill up your tank. If you got 2 cars, fill up both cars. Get some gas cans and have some extra gas reserves, because we're seeing right now things are getting pretty ugly with the gas scarcity. And it was because the port of Tampa wasn't operational for a bit of time, and because a lot of the gas stations lost power, so nobody can pump gas at those gas stations because there was no electricity. So those 2 factors have had some pretty, I would say, big impacts on post-hurricane life here. All right, I live in Pasco. Yeah, I've heard there is a bit of flooding in Pasco. That's really awful. And it really depends on the area. I've seen some, the sheriff's offices have been, and even like the Florida Highway Patrol, they've been posting some. Oh, I got to show you guys this. Let me see if I can find this. Hold on a second. This got kind of viral. This went kind of viral like right before the hurricane. So let me see if I can bring this up here. Let's see. Florida Highway Patrol. Dog. Actually, let me see if I can, I wonder if I can find like a YouTube video. Let's see if we can find a YouTube thing. Let's see here. Florida Highway Patrol dog. So the Florida Highway Patrol rescued a dog that was tied to a fence, and the poor thing was like up to his shoulders in water, standing water. It was horrible. Just horrible. Let me see if I can find this. And everyone's really upset about this. Let's see here. Okay. All right, here is a news story.
Now for you about the poor dog that was found tied to a fence as Hurricane Milton approached Florida.
Louis here to tell.
Let's see here. We're not gonna really play much of this. I could probably play like the FHP part because that's like public domain. But this is awful. Let's see here. So I think this was on near I-75 in Tampa, I believe. Let me see if I can bring this up here.
Wednesday, a bull terrier tied to a fence right off I-75 just north of Tampa as Hurricane Milton was about to make landfall. The poor pup was stuck in standing, rising flood.
I mean, this is just, like, I just want to know who does this?
Highway Patrol.
Seriously, look at this. This dog, somebody left this, I think it's a bull terrier, you know, like the Target dog or like Spuds McKenzie. Somebody seriously left this dog tied up to a fence in standing water. Left him to die, basically. This is horrible. This poor dog. So the dog, he's okay. Oh.
To him and take him to the vet where he was given.
Here's the update. So I guess they named him Trooper, which I think is very fitting. And they sent him up to the Leon County Humane Society. It just really breaks your, I just cannot believe somebody would do this to a dog. And he looks super cute and friendly. Poor thing. So he's been named Trooper. I think he's in foster care. He is currently not available for adoption. They said he's not going to be available for adoption for a while because they really want to try to vet the people and make sure he's okay. I don't think they found the previous owner, whoever left them there. Quite frankly, I hope they find whoever did this, and I hope they're prosecuted. Jeez. But this is Trooper. Hopefully his next home is way better. I mean, he deserves better. He deserves way more than being, tied to a fence. I mean, and he was in, if the water had gotten any higher, he would have been a goner. He was scared. Poor thing. So I really hope I genuinely do hope that they find the person who did this. And I hope that person goes to jail. I hope they go to jail. Florida does have pretty strict animal cruelty laws. So I really hope that this person is caught, because this is crazy. This is crazy. All right, we've got, all right, thank you for letting us know. All right, we stayed in the condo through it all. All right, still in the USF area at 42nd Street. Wow, power came. Okay, so you got power Friday at 4:30. Okay. Wow, Friday at 4:30. Okay, so you guys lost power for over a day, right? Yeah, over a day. Yeah, because Thursday morning was like kind of the morning after. Okay, and I'm getting, like, that's the thing. Like, I feel like it's been a year since last week, and I don't even know what day. Like, I don't even, and I don't know how you feel, but we just feel really tired. Like, we're just kind of like exhausted. And again, even though like nothing super bad happened to us, we're still just like freaking tired. And we're really like just over everything. Okay, the tree was removed today. Well, I hope the damage at your condo wasn't, is repairable. Hopefully everything's okay. Yeah, like the dog. And the dog story, like, people were really, like, that really got a lot of people, Poor dog. Yeah, I hope Trooper deserves a much better home. I would not be surprised if his previous owner was a really bad, really awful person. He probably didn't have a great life. So hopefully Trooper gets a better family. So, super crazy. Super crazy. Yeah, if you guys have any questions or you want to make any more comments, now is the time. Yeah, we got plenty of emergency stuff here, I guess. And you know what? And I know there's some rumors that I guess there's like some other possible tropical storm developments. I really hope none of them develop, because that would be, I don't think we can handle much more. Like, quite frankly, I don't think we can handle much more hurricane. And there are still 2 months left of hurricane season. And I'm just going to be really stressed. I'm going to be stressed out until, like December. Going to be pretty, it's been very stressful. And like, I would be, and I can't imagine how much more stressed out I would be if we'd had a lot of home damage, or whatever. So I hope this helped anybody who is maybe thinking about Florida, or just, is curious about what this whole thing was like. I will say things are getting very interesting down in the Facebook groups. And like my HOA Facebook group is like getting like very dramatic, and people are starting to fight now. So I'm like, oh man. Well, it's like there'll be fights, and then the next post to be like, it'll be like everything's honky-dory, and I'm so glad all of our neighbors are so awesome. But then the next post is like people fighting. So I feel like it's very like, I don't know, it's just, it's kind of comic. It's like comically ironic that, everyone's like, yeah, we have great neighbors. And then the next post, it's like, it's like something insane. So I don't know. I think people are really losing their minds, over this whole ordeal. And yeah, and it's been like literally like 2 weeks since Hurricane Helene. And there was a lot of damage here from Helene. There was a lot of flooding, and a lot of people in my area lost their homes. So, oh my gosh, Jenny, thank you so much. All right, thank you. Glad you made it out safe. That mowing vid was hilarious. Thank you. Thank you so much for the super chat. Jenny's getting inky with it. I really appreciate. Yes, my husband mowed the lawn, like, as we were, like, doing stuff. And, some people did say that, like, it was a waste of time, and he was right. Because, yeah, our lawn, and people are like, yeah, your lawn's not going to be there tomorrow. It is still there, and he is actually really glad he mowed the lawn. So, he's glad he mowed. Thank you. I really appreciate the super chat. Yeah, we were totally fine. And, yeah, like, the hurricane part itself literally it was by far not the worst part of the experience. At least for me personally. I know I would feel differently if something had happened to the house. But if if nothing, like, if you don't get significant damage or anything like that, then the actual hurricane is probably not going to be the worst part. I think the worst part for a lot of people is fear of the unknown and, like, leading up to Hurricane Milton. And then afterwards, now that people have been without power for, like, 5 days and they can't get gas anywhere. Like, I think people think that part is actually worse. Yeah. And, like, a lot of stuff is not open here. So, yeah, a lot of stuff is not open. Which, again, we don't really eat out a lot anyways or anything. But yeah, there's so much damage. So my takeaways are, one, I think builders should be required. I do think builders should be required if they're doing a multi-story home. The home should be block construction entirely, no wood frame at all, because that's kind of bullshit. Vinyl fences are stupid, and I don't understand. Our HOA, if you get a fence, it has to be a vinyl fence. Those things are all over the place, and they were flying around. Shingle roofs, also nonsensical for Florida. Our HOA has a rule that we have to have a shingle roof, which, again, does not make a lot of sense. I hope they revisit that. And people are now fighting online because they don't have power. You know, again, these are very first world problems too for a lot of these people that didn't have, like, the home damage. Like, they just can't, you know, people are really, like, starting to lose their minds over the lack of electricity. But thank you so much for the super chat, Jenny. I really appreciate that. All right, yeah, Nancy, Florida's probably not for everybody, and I'm pretty upfront about, like, the positives and the negatives. Yeah, it is a pretty crazy place. Yeah, I hate winter people. I bet you're going to move to Florida when you retire. No, yeah, the humidity is pretty, the humidity is real, and there are a lot of, like, the Florida man types. Also, there are a lot of really, like, the drive-in here is kind of crazy. A lot of people here are, like, we have a lot of very bad drivers, and we have a lot of uninsured drivers, so just know that. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm glad everyone enjoyed the lawn mowing. I kind of just shot that, like, kind of, like, whatever. I was like, this is kind of funny. Yeah, the cost of living here, it used to be, and that's the thing, Florida used to be very affordable, and now, like, it's like if you didn't get in on buying a house before, like, 2020, it's like it's so much more expensive. So the only reason we could not afford to live in this neighborhood if we were purchasing now. We bought, like, quite a while ago, but the insurance costs are starting to become, like, really, really bad. So that's not, yeah. Yeah, there are, you know, somebody told me when I was moving here, Florida is like California's trashy sister. And, you know, I kind of get that. It is a little bit, you know, I like, you know, we're not going to leave or anything, not anytime soon, but yeah, there is some stuff you have to deal with here that is probably not, there's also, another factor is that I don't go outside a lot because I will get eaten alive by mosquitoes. So, I don't go outdoors a ton because, like, even the other day, I went outside for, like, 5 minutes, and I got a mosquito bite in our screen and porch. I got a mosquito bite in the bottom of my foot. If I go out to check the mail, I'll get bit up, like, 80 times. So, I don't tend to do a lot of outdoor stuff just because I just get, the mosquitoes will just, like, go crazy, and that's kind of miserable. Yeah, well, you know, I haven't spent a lot of time in California. I have seen Joshua Tree. That does seem kind of cool. All right. Okay, AS, I will say I'm originally from New York State. It's pretty expensive there too. I lived in Pennsylvania for a little bit. I don't know about the taxes currently. I will say New York State has very high taxes, particularly they have pretty high property taxes and income taxes. So that, again, it's like every state has, like, something to deal with. The taxes in New York are very, very high. So you just know that. So So again, Florida has lower taxation, but crazy insurance costs, and you have risks there. But yeah, dealing with snow is really, dealing with large amounts of snow on a daily basis kind of kills your soul too. So, yeah, if I had to move somewhere else, I don't know where I would move. I would probably want to move to an area that doesn't have a lot of severe weather, but also is like kind of a low cost of living. I don't really care about like water, like my husband likes being near the water. I really don't care. I don't know where we would move though. I'm so sorry. Yeah, PTSD is real. Yeah, like, and even though nothing really traumatic happened to us, like, personally, I still feel like this has had, like, a pretty profound effect on me, like, just overall. I don't know. I guess I'll know more, like, as time passes, because it's only been, like, a few days since this all went down. I would say Ian was, like, less terrible, but it was because people didn't really lose power for a long time during Ian. But I think this widespread power outage and the gas shortage has really caused a lot of chaos here, just in the aftermath of stuff. Man, so when we were looking for homes, Enigmata, you could easily get a home for under $100,000, and it was a pretty nice home. Yeah, it used to be so much cheaper. Oh, Nancy, I couldn't tell you. We are not going to live in an HOA neighborhood again. The HOA neighborhood Facebook group, oh my gosh. Like, I don't even post or comment in there because I don't want these people to know I exist. I just want to lurk because there's way too much drama in these Facebook groups. It's just crazy. Oh, well, I'm glad to hear all my sewing machines are in their cases and safer now. Now, can I ask you, Ciela, did you get water damage, or is it mostly like roof damage, or what happened to you? Because, yeah, I was worried about water. I was worried about, like, some water damage, so I kind of, like, covered all my sewing stuff in plastic, just in case something happened. All right, Massachusetts has, there's crazy drivers everywhere, man. I will say Atlanta is probably the worst. Atlanta's probably the worst for driving in my experience, my personal experience. I also thought Washington, D.C. was kind of crazy, too. New York, obviously, they've got their own thing going on. What happened to the alligators? You know what? That's a good point. I did, too. I expected to see a few stories about them roaming into homes with these storms. Yeah, I haven't really seen any, like, crazy alligator stories. And you're right, I was kind of wondering. So we have some ponds in the back of our home in some of the neighborhoods, and there have been alligators spotted. So I was kind of wondering if like the ponds rose, which they really didn't, if we would see some more alligators. And I haven't seen any, and I haven't really seen any stories about them, like, going crazy or anything. Yeah, you're right. I'm kind of surprised. I was also kind of expecting there to be more alligator activity, and yeah, I haven't really seen a lot. All right, El Paso, Texas has, okay, so Music Mama, I used to live there. Yeah, I did used to live there. Has no major weather issues except moderate windstorms. Cost of living is reasonable too. No water there. So Music Mama, I was in El Paso during the 2006 floods. Have you heard of that? I was there. El Paso, it like never rains. But in, I think 2006, they got like 100-year flood or something. And it everywhere I've lived has had like a catastrophic flood event for the most part. And El Paso did have a catastrophic flood. I also remember it snowed in El Paso one year. I forgot what year it was, but people abandoned their cars on the road because they didn't know how to drive in snow. And I was like, oh, I got this. So yeah, I lived in El Paso for 3 years. It was pretty cheap when I lived there. I heard the property taxes are getting a little high. But when I lived in El Paso, my apartment was like $400 a month, plus I had a roommate. And then when I had a mortgage, it was only like $700 a month or something like that. But yeah, I lived there during the 2006, I think it was the 2006, flood. Yeah, I was there, and our TV. I worked at KFOX TV in El Paso, and the station and the newsroom flooded. So we had to work upstairs for like 6 months. Yeah. So here, I'll bring this up. This is from the weather.gov. Yeah, I was there for this. It was pretty crazy being here. Yeah, heavy rains and flash floods devastate western Texas and southern New Mexico. Oh yeah. Yeah, because I specifically, yeah, it was miserable. And my condo was kind of up on the mountain, and I actually didn't get flooding, but there were a lot of, so El Paso relies on arroyos for like storm drainage, and it's not that good. So El Paso could not handle any sort of severe flooding or rain, which it got. And there were also like I think there were some dams or something, and a lot of homes and neighborhoods were built in very low-lying areas, and those homes just got like wiped out. It was crazy. So yeah, I was working and living in El Paso during the wettest. Yeah, it got 30 inches of rain. Damage from flooding was estimated at over $200 million. Man, I'm surprised it wasn't worse. No deaths or serious injuries reported. Yeah, because I was like, this is crazy. See, when did the floods act? It was definitely in the summer. Yeah, I lived there. I liked living there. Okay, June? Was it June? But yeah, the TV station flooded. I remember working. We were in like wall-to-wall coverage. I worked over a 24-hour shift once there. Because at the time, I was I think I was working overnights at the time. Yeah, I was working overnights. And I literally did work a 24-hour shift. Over a 24 hours producing. Yeah, the whole thing was like, it was like a historical. So yeah, I remember this. The TV station flooded. They found like rats in the newsroom. It was really nuts. Yeah, so I was there. This was like 18 years ago, I guess. I can't believe it was that long ago. I was like just a baby too. Yeah. Yeah, so, and the TV station was on North Mesa Street, so it's kind of on the main strip in El Paso. Yeah, the whole thing was it was unreal. It was really unreal. Yeah, so this is what El Paso looked like in 2006. Because I think a lot of portions of East El Paso flooded. I think it was like mostly East El Paso, and it was in certain neighborhoods, and then it was in parts of New Mexico. So, all right. So yes. Oh, okay. So it was about you moved there a month. Okay, a month. Yeah. Okay. So you were there too. Yeah, I was there too. And I lived there. I lived there from like 2004 to 2007. Yeah. So I was there for about 3 years. When I was little, my mother worked at Girl Scout Camp Wailanai, just north of Tampa. So we spent several summers in the area. Yeah, the humidity and the mosquitoes are really bad. Like, they're really bad. And they just really like me, so, like, I can't do anything about it. And the mosquito bites just make me miserable. So, like, I can't go outside. I can't even really go outside a lot unless I want to get eaten alive by bugs. East Coast Florida isn't as bad. Yeah, Washington, D.C. driving is, like, really... That was very nerve-wracking. All right, your nickname should be Jen the Flood or Hurricane Jen. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, so everywhere I've lived has had, like, you know, a lot of flooding. Like, again, El Paso, doing the weather there generally is pretty easy because it's like, all right, it's sunny and 100 degrees out, you know. I remember, but yeah, so at the time, my news director at the station, he was like a total weather, like he had a weird obsession with weather. He was just very excited about this all. He was super excited about the storms because he just loved weather. He just loved weather. Yeah, I did hear taxes went up a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, I worked at KFOX. In fact, one of the gals that like kind of trained me, she's now the news director. She's very nice. Her name is Shauna Ziegler, and she like really worked her way up. She was like, she started off as the morning producer, then she was the evening producer, then she was the executive producer, and now she is the current news director. She has like identical twins too. So really, yeah. So yeah, and I lived off of, I lived kind of up on the mountain. So if you go up, I lived off of Escondido. So if you know where Escondido is, that's where I lived. I had a condo there. So yeah, KFOX, and I think KFOX is like merged with KDBC, the CBS station. So now they're under the same ownership group. So yeah, KFOX, yeah, I worked there, and one thing I did like about El Paso is that like I lived close to work. So like everything was like really close. So you didn't have to drive very far. My condo was like 5 minutes from work. That is one thing I really appreciated. I lived on the west side, and I really liked how easily accessible everything was. And yeah, back in the 2000s, I was only making $20,000 a year. So like that ended up being kind of a good, probably like a good city to live in for a first job, because, I wasn't living large, but I wasn't starving. Yeah. I used to go over to the Blockbuster a lot. I'm sure that's closed now. Yeah. Nothing even remotely close to that since then. Oh, my baby son was an infant, now is a freshman. Yeah, and I did like the Sunland Park Mall had it going on. I used to go over there and like, look at stuff or whatever. Sunland Park Mall. Good times. And I remember everyone was excited when El Paso got a P.F. Chang's. We were really jazzed about that. Yeah, I actually really liked living there. Liked living there a lot. But yeah, the 2006 flood was pretty intense for sure. But yeah, the newsroom, like there was like a foot of water in the newsroom. It got really bad. Like they ended up having to so they had the anchor. So I'm not joking. We did the shows. Like the anchors were in like the break room or something. They were like in front of sliding, it's like sliding door blinds or something. And then we had to work in the lobby. Like we had to work up. So the KFOX building at the time, I don't know if they moved, but the KFOX building used to be a bank. So they even had like a vault and everything where they kept the photography equipment. And, for like 6 months, it was rough because we all had to share like 3 computers, which was kind of nuts. It was very not everything was, it was definitely not ideal. Yeah, and we were broadcasting from the break room, and then we were working on like the top floor, basically in like the lobby of the building. That's where we were working. It was just, I can't believe we all did that. It was just, yeah, it was very surreal. And, it's funny because like the memories will come back, but yeah, it was such a long time ago. All right. Well, if anyone has any questions, I think we've been live now for like almost 3 hours. It's been a much longer live stream than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, just to recap, shit's crazy. A lot of people in our area do not have power. People are losing their minds on Facebook. Gas, very hard to come by. I'm okay. No major damage to the house. Definitely do a lot of research if you are considering a move to Florida. That's for sure. And if you want, I would say if you can't handle the idea of losing your home, do not live near the water. It's much lower risk if you go farther inland. It's not like the entire state of Florida, gets wiped out by hurricanes every year, which is what my husband thought when he was a kid. You just have to know what areas are lower risk and make an informed decision. Get a newer house, newer build, new roof, have flood insurance. And yeah, if you literally cannot handle the thought of losing all your stuff in your home, I would not live close. I would not live on one of the Florida coasts. I would live farther inland in a lower risk area. So that's just my 2 cents as a longtime Florida resident. It's getting a lot more expensive here. And we've now had 2 fairly catastrophic hurricanes hit our area within 2 weeks. So it's, you know, it's really going well. It's really going well. All right, I'm about a mile from Escondido. Yeah, on the side of the mountain. Yeah, and actually that area, I don't know if it's still nice, but when I lived there, it was a good neighborhood, and you know, I enjoyed living there. All right, guys, I'm probably gonna sign off pretty soon. My husband made some hot dogs, so we're gonna have some hot dogs. Okay, wait, they changed the name of the Sunland Park Mall? Solana, okay. But yeah, because, all right, and also there was the Cielo Vista Mall? I forgot which one had like one of them had like slightly nicer stores, like they had like the Dillards. I used to go to Dillards all the time. One of them had the Dillards. I forgot which one that was. Yeah, I can't remember, but one of them had like slightly more upscale stores and stuff and shops. But yeah, I used to go to the mall and just like hang out and stuff. I don't know. Fun times. Fun time. I'm sure it's probably changed a lot too. But yeah, I spent about 3 years working at K-Fox. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope everyone has a great week. If you live in the Tampa Bay area or in Florida and you've been affected by Hurricane Milton, I am I feel for you. I feel for you, and I hope you get power back soon, and I hope everything is okay for you. But yeah, and I've also linked to floridadisaster.org. If you are affected, there are some good resources. It's a state website, and there are some good stuff there. Good information. I really hope the rest of this hurricane season is not as... we need a bit of a break. We do need a bit of a break. Hopefully I can start getting things back. The Etsy shop is now back open at sewingreport.etsy.com. We are back open. Tomorrow is a holiday, though, so orders will ship out on Tuesday. You know, willing. Hopefully everything's okay. Yeah, if there's a third hurricane this season, some people will just swim. Yeah, I don't know. People might just... I do think these storms, these hurricanes probably will drive some people out of the state who just don't want to do this anymore, and I don't blame them. It's stress. It's highly stressful. This is a highly stressful situation. AS, I'm glad you're okay. Do you have power? I'm guessing you have power since you're online, hopefully. But hopefully things are okay. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to get some hot dogs, and then I'm probably going to... Yeah, we missed our trash pickup, so hopefully tomorrow they come pick up our trash. All right, guys, I'll see you all next Sunday, same time, same place, where we will be back, hopefully, to talking about the latest with sewing and craft news, because this has been a bit of a detour. Thank you for sticking with me. Yeah, things were pretty... Yeah, the bunny, she's a maniac. She is a maniac. That's all I can say. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear you never lost power. And we only lost power for like an hour total, so it wasn't too bad. All right, guys, let's turn the music back on and we'll jam out for a few minutes. We need to de-stress. You know, we need to de-stress a little bit. But thanks all for tuning in. I will see you next week. I'm Jen with the Sewing Report Live. I will be back here at 6 p.m. Eastern Time next Sunday, where we talk about whatever is happening in the world of sewing and crafts. All right, have a good night, everybody.